solely to help her community and stayed in that position, didn't jump to a different position, that is somebody who was not a career politician. She didn't make it into a career. Donald Trump has been running for 10 years, was president, which makes him an establishment candidate, and as somebody who's been running for 10 years and has lost office, he is by definition career politician. President.
What did he try to run for?
2020, but you probably think he won, so.
What did he try to run for prior to that?
Right, ma'am, you're not understanding. When you run for office for 10 years, you're a career politician now. Okay?
And I'm asking
and again,
you,
there's people who do it for public service. I don't make the case because I don't call these people career politicians. You're the one who's calling these people career politicians, but by your definition and the definition of the Webster Dictionary, Donald Trump is a career politician. I don't care about career politicians. I think that people do public service because they care about public service. There's obviously people like Bob Menendez who's, you know, or like Eric Adams or George Santos, right? But again, if you're going to say, well, Donald Trump's not a career politician, let's make sense of the matter. Donald Trump has been in politics for decades. Donald Trump has been running for president for 10 years. The guy is by definition a career politician, right?
There's a difference between being involved in politics and being a politician.
Right.
And being
even
in
if
office.
even if you forget about everything before his first campaign, he has still been a politician for a decade. Okay? A decade.
When? Where? For what? For where?
Chat, has he not been running for office
He
for
ran
a
for
decade now?
president in 2016.
No, 2015, but you wouldn't know that. Technically 2014 because that's when he started fundraising, but you wouldn't know that either. So tell me again.
Okay, that was one.
Donald Trump has been running
that was one.
Right, and then he ran for president 2 more times. Career politician. Okay, he's on his 3rd campaign for the presidency.
Correct.
That's a decade.
Because he was already in it.
Ma'am, that's a decade. He has been running for a decade. I'm not going to continue to entertain a simple definition with you. If you don't know a definition, that's fine. You do you. Okay, I'm not your vocabulary. So let's expand on this. He is a criminal. And I think it's funny that you say, oh, not that he's not a criminal. Instead, you suggest, no, he is a criminal, but he's not a career politician, which is odd. So why are you voting for a felon, sexual abuser, criminal, civil fraudster? Go ahead. Who compares himself to Al Capone? But why are you voting for him?
Because he's not part of the establishment. And he's not politically correct all the time.
He, by definition, is part of the establishment.
These days.
He is, by definition, part of the establishment.
No, he's not.
And he isn't always politically correct. Is that you trying to cover up his incoherence when he makes ignorant remarks? Like, is that you trying to say that, oh, he's not politically correct, so when he talked about sharks and batteries, or Speaker of the House Nikki Haley, or his wife Mercedes Trump, that's you trying to say, well, that's him not being politically correct? No, I think that's dementia. Yeah? Okay. So tell me again, why are you voting for a felon?
Because life was better under him.
Okay, can you break that down?
Gas prices were cheaper.
Ma'am, listen, I got, if you, do you want to borrow my inhaler?
Gas prices were cheaper.
Okay. What is gas on average today, the national average? Did you just leave?
It's an election year, so it's gone down.
You're saying it went down
so obviously it's gone down.
because it's an election year. That's what you just said. Really? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Guest, come back. You don't need to run away. Okay. Oh, she literally just ran away. We got a runner. No. Let's get some cow emojis in the chat. This is insane. What is going on? What is going on with some of these guys? I don't understand. I don't understand. What is going on with these Republicans? They're not even Republicans, let's be real. These are straight up rhinos. But hi, guest. Are you voting for the felon? 3, 2, 1. Bye. Next. Again, folks, if you are voting for Donald Trump, join the guest request and let's have a conversation about it. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Hi, guest. Are you voting for the criminal?
Yeah, I'd love to cut your fucking head off, buddy. You fucking faggot.
Okay. Listen, everybody's got their kinks. All right, calm down. Calm down. Go away. Shoo, shoo. Everybody's got their kinks. If that's what you're into, fine. Drop a 20 in my Cash App. You do you, boo. I ain't here to judge. Let's get up our next guest. He did that on his girl's account too. Do we recognize that this is like... I'm just up here getting hate crime today. What is going on? I'm going to need some reparations on that one. Like, what is literally happening right now? What is happening? I will end this stream. I don't even care. I don't even care. This is insane. I'll just go meet some voters in person instead. This is beyond insane. Like, do we recognize... Shut your mouth. Do we recognize that he just straight up, like, threatened me? That he straight up just hate crimed and threatened me? What is going on? What is going on? Reparations. Like, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App in my bio. I'm done. I'm over this. This is insane. This is insane. Buy me my Halloween costume. That's it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm going out. We're going to a Halloween party. I'm done. This is insane. What is going on? What is going on? Do they think that when they do that it's going to win them, like, votes? Stormy, hi. Are you voting for the felon?
I am not, but I find it crazy that people will request to come up
and then cry
and to bash you or to call you out, to call you names. They don't have nothing else better to do with their time.
Nope.
That's all I wanted to say. Have a good day.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming up. It's literally what they do all the time. They really have no platform to run on, and because we're this close to an election, they're just crying and screaming. It's insane. It's insane. Greg, hi. Are you voting for the criminal?
No, I'm not.
Hello.
Johnny, just want to say I love you, man. Keep up the fight. We love you. I love your channel. You're awesome, bro.
Thanks. Love you right back. Thanks for coming up. I appreciate it, folks. I really do. I'm okay. I'm fine. It's just insane because they really have nothing to run on. And so they just scream and cry. And it's not me that I'm concerned about. I'm really not, I'm fine. I just know that there are kids who are watching this stuff, and there are families who watch this, because I know that because they get their messages like over TikTok. They're like kids who watch this. They're like families who watch this with their kids on the car ride home from like school and stuff. And so they say things like that. And it's like, you guys talk all the time about wanting to protect kids and wanting to support kids, and you're like, people are grooming kids. And then you say things like that. What are you doing? Like, again, I'm not concerned about me. I do have an issue with them doing this in front of children. It's disgusting. MAGA Republicans, look at yourself in the moment. Like, look in the mirror, recognize that this is a teachable moment for you, and understand that you're being a hypocrite when you come up and say something like that. Okay? You're making this, you are grooming children, MAGA Republicans. You understand what you're doing? Every time you come up and say disgusting, awful rhetoric like that, you are grooming children. There are children watching. There are families watching with their children. Stop it. Hi, Chrissy. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
I am voting for Donald Trump.
Cool. Do you want to denounce the rhetoric coming from your side?
I think there's a lot of rhetoric.
Don't do the both sides thing. You heard and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't both sides this shit. So tell me, do you want to denounce the rhetoric coming from your side?
No.
Of course not. Because you're okay with it. That's awful. That's god awful. You understand that?
No, what's god awful?
Do you understand that? Would you consider yourself a woman of God? Are you religious?
I am definitely a woman of God.
And so you won't denounce the awful rhetoric that you just heard from your side. You won't denounce it solely because it's coming from your side. Where's the humanity in that? Do you see the hypocrisy in that?
I don't believe, I'm not a carbon copy of anybody.
Oh, this is your side, ma'am. So I'm telling you, do you want to denounce the rhetoric that just came from your side, or no, you don't want to denounce it? And you said no.
Do you want to denounce the rhetoric coming from your side?
This is awful.
Do you want to denounce the rhetoric coming from your side?
This is awful.
Kill babies.
This is awful. Ma'am, you think that the rhetoric that they just said on this live stream, do you think that's justified?
No, that's wrong. They should never threaten you.
That's easy. See, now that right there was very easy to say. But when I say, do you want to denounce the rhetoric coming from your side? For some reason, you hesitated 4 times. That's weird. Okay, so why are you voting for a felon?
Well, I'm voting for a felon and for a hillbilly. So just, get that right.
Congratulations. I don't know if that's the flex you seem to think it is. I
just know that if somebody tells somebody else that they need to get out of their rally? Because obviously they need to go to the one that's down the street.
Ma'am, when you go to a rally and verbally abuse a woman, you're going to get kicked out of the rally. Sorry to break it to you. That's
By
actually common
saying
procedure for
Jesus-
everybody. That's
by
not what they were saying.
Jesus is
Ma'am,
Lord.
there's video of what they were saying, and that ain't it. Actually,
Yeah.
what they were saying would be denounced by Jesus, don't you think?
That he is.
You probably
king.
don't think so because you're the one over here claiming that, oh, you know, it's fine to spew this kind of rhetoric on somebody's channel. Ma'am, let's get this right. They went there to heckle the sitting vice president and Democratic candidate for president of the United States, and you're claiming something that just blatantly did not happen, right? At least when there's protesters, for example, when there's folks fighting for freedom for Palestinians, when they go there and they heckle a candidate, at least they own up to it. Your side heckles a candidate and you lack so much courage that you won't even admit you heckled somebody. Do you see it's kind of weird, right? We heard them. So let's get aside from that. Why are you voting for a criminal, somebody who was found liable of sexual abuse, somebody who was found liable of civil fraud? Can you break that down? And you said hillbilly so proud, like congratulations.
Well, I'm from Missouri originally.
That's so great and dandy. Still not the flex you think it is.
But
and he's from Ohio.
I am from the Show Me State. And what
The
Donald
what
Trump,
state?
The Show Me State is Missouri. That is their motto.
SHOWME?
Show Me, yes. That is the name of Missouri, the Show Me State.
Okay. All right, continue. Oh.
I'm just saying.
That's fine.
And I'm voting for Donald Trump because he showed me that he is going to do what he says that he's going to do. He follows
When did he show you to do that? I mean, you just said he followed through on his promises. He said he was going to replace the Affordable Care Act. He didn't. It's been a decade. He still doesn't have a plan. He has a concept of a plan. He said he was going to build the wall. He didn't. And then when the Democrats tried working with a Republican, Mike Johnson, to build the wall, Donald Trump blocked it, right? Donald Trump said he wouldn't touch the Second Amendment. I'm a Second Amendment Democrat. I love my Second Amendment. He said he wasn't going to touch my Second Amendment, and then he did. And in June of this year, his bump stock ban was overturned, and his own Supreme Court ruled he is the first modern day president to become a constitutional violator, ironically, for the Second Amendment. Donald Trump, the guy who said he wasn't going to touch Roe v. Wade, who then overturned Roe v. Wade, ma'am, this guy lies through his teeth, lies about everything. What are you talking about? He keeps his promises.
I was better off financially.
Oh, no, what was that pivot? You just said he keeps his promises. I just broke down exactly how he doesn't.
To make things better for the middle class. And he did.
Ma'am, no. Again, hold on. Do you recognize the 4 topics I just listed as to how he did not keep his promises? I just named 4 items he promised in his 2016 campaign that he did not keep. 4 promises. Do you recognize that?
Sure.
Okay, so then you just said that he keeps his promises. Will you now admit he does not keep his promises?
There were no new wars.
Ma'am, you're not listening. He said he was going to keep his promises. That's what you claim, that he does keep his promises.
You have a problem. You asked me why I was voting for
and
Donald
you said he
Trump.
keeps his promises, and I pointed out how he literally does not. Will you now admit that he does not keep his promises? I appreciate the pivot, but will you admit how he doesn't keep his promises?
There is nobody who keeps all of their promises.
Where is the Affordable Care Act plan? Where's his health care plan? Where is it?
I don't know.
Right, exactly. Me either, and neither does he. So tell me, where's the wall? And did Mexico pay for it?
He wasn't given the opportunity to complete the wall.
He was.
No, he wasn't.
He was.
No, he wasn't.
He was.
He wasn't.
So in part, first off, we recognize that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer were working with him to put out a bipartisan border deal. He did not want that. He wanted the wall and no input from the Democrats who led Congress, so he wasn't going to get the wall. Obama built 400 miles of the wall with a Republican Congress. Why was he able to, but Donald Trump couldn't? Or you look at Kamala Harris and Mike Johnson, 2 people who disagree on everything, were able to get a bipartisan border deal on the ground. It was about to pass to build the wall. Donald Trump could have even taken credit for it if he wanted to, but then Donald Trump blocked it. Okay, so let's get this right. Donald Trump does not keep his promises. You don't have to admit it if you can't get yourself to have the integrity to do so, but we do know that he does not keep her promises. So I'll show you that. Now, I also want to show you the economy under Donald Trump. You claim that people were making more money under Donald Trump than they are today. Is that what you said? Is that an accurate statement?
That is accurate in my household.
Okay, but your household isn't the country. So maybe you had a different job. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you had different stocks. Here's an idea. Don't invest in AMC theaters again. That's personal financial advice from me. You're welcome. That'll be $20. So we recognize that Donald Trump's economy was corporate focused, not middle class focused. You made the overarching claim that it was for the middle class. Can you break that down for me?
I think you are wanting for anybody to say anything that you can pick apart so you can prove your point.
Now I want somebody to say something intelligent. So why don't you show me that? Go ahead. Talk about the economy and how it benefited the middle class.
Wow. If I was your mother, I would be embarrassed.
Actually, let me make something very clear. If you were my mother, I would be embarrassed. So now I want you to answer one more time as to the question at hand. Give me a response to what I am asking. What is Donald Trump's economy to the extent of which it benefited middle-class Americans? Break it down. Okay? If you can't do that, admit it. You don't need to run away. If you do, we got the cowbell.
I'm not going to run
It's
away
fine.
because I'm not going to cowbell. That's
Great.
kind of
So then answer the
ridiculous.
question. This isn't that tough.
You know,
It's a very simple question. I'm not even asking you for a percentage. I didn't ask for anything numerical. I'm asking you just to tell me how his economy benefited middle-class Americans, and you're struggling to do that. The fact that you think that that question is a trap, ma'am, then you don't even know the kind of traps I got set up for you. So again, break down that stance you just stood on and give me your belief as to how it benefited middle-class Americans. That should be easy.
if you are talking about the economy as far as gas prices, if you're talking about as far as wages, as unemployment, all were better under Trump.
Ma'am.
Sir.
Think of what you just said.
Sir?
For example, what is the inflation
Are you
rate
not a
today?
sir?
What?
I said sir. So are you not a sir?
Ma'am, I'm talking about the inflation rate.
Oh, you weren't talking about the last thing I said, which
No,
was
I don't know why you Republicans are so concerned about people's gender. I really don't care.
I
Do
don't
whatever you
care.
want. Be whatever you want. I really don't care.
I
When you
don't
seem very
care.
interested in my gender, just know I'm not interested.
No, you said ma'am.
Listen, I see that you
and
got a
I
guy in
said
your
sir.
All right, ma'am. I get you got a guy in your profile photo. I'm not interested in being part of some sort of throuple. I don't know if that's normal for Missouri. But listen again. So I'm asking you about his
No, that's not
economic stance
Arkansas,
that you
thank
just
you.
stood on, and tell me how that benefited the middle class. You were claiming that gas was lower under Donald Trump. Gas is at pre-pandemic levels right now, on par with what it was in 2018. Okay? I mean, just a couple weeks ago, it was identical to 2018. Now, let's also look at inflation. Inflation today is at 2.4%. In 2018, it was 2.4%. Do we understand this? So tell me again, what did Donald Trump do to benefit the middle class and his economy? And maybe talk about something that's not identical to what it is today. Just a thought.
I got nothing. I'm
I
not going to talk to you about
know.
it.
I know you have nothing, but you brought it up, right? So
You
let's
asked me
recognize.
point blank, so I gave you what I personally experienced.
Right.
I didn't care to hear that.
Right, and you don't. You're going off of your feelings and emotions, and you clearly have plenty of them. But so let's understand. Donald Trump's economy was corporate
Let me
focused, not
ask
middle
you-
class focused. Well, I
May I
want to
ask
explain
you a
this to you,
question?
if I may. If I
May I
may.
ask you a question?
If you may not, and if I may, that'd be great. So again, we look at the middle class economy under Donald Trump. It wasn't middle class. It was corporate focused. And I'll make this quick, because I know I got 7 seconds of an attention span here out of you, Christy. So we recognize that Donald Trump gave a corporate tax deduction to Walmart, Amazon, Microsoft, companies that were already making record high profits, 14%. He gave the middle class 1 to 2%. You're saying that this was life-changing for you, apparently. Congrats. I don't understand how, but congrats. Can you explain to me why he would give 14% to corporations who were already making record high profits and make that a permanent tax cut, and then only give 1 to 2% to the middle class as a temporary tax cut that expires next year. Can you explain that? And mind you, how you're saying you were making more money then than you are today, even though inflation is at the same level it was then, and even though you're still under Donald Trump's tax policy. Again, so I'm not understanding how this may be unless you change jobs, which has nothing to do with Biden or Harris. But that being said, if you can break down to me why Donald Trump would give 14% to corporations and 1 to 2% to the middle class, that would be great.
The only thing that I see with corporations is if they're making more money, they can give higher wages. If they are able to give higher wages, they're able to pass that on to their employees. Some of them choose to do that, some of them do not.
Who chooses to do that?
The corporations,
Right, who?
the heads of the corporations.
Can you name one?
Well, you just named off what? Amazon.
Ma'am, you just muted yourself. If you could hit the unmute button, that'd be great. Somebody just said Ronald Reagan has entered the chat. Y'all are wild. Chrissy, if you could unmute yourself. You don't need to pretend like you got muted so that you can run away. My hands have been here in frame the entire time. I never touched the phone. Great. So if you could tell me what those businesses are.
Whichever ones that you listed whenever you first started.
No, the businesses
You
that
talked
I
so
listed,
much.
for example, Apple, didn't pass that money down to the workers or the consumers. In fact, Apple increased the cost on their product, iPhone, about $200, and then passed the money up from the corporate tax deduction to their CEO, who walked away with more money by the end of Donald Trump's term pre-pandemic than he walked in with at the get-go of Donald Trump's term. So you just said the businesses I named, that's actually not what you're looking for. I'm asking you for a business that did the opposite of what those businesses did.
Well, I know the business that my husband works for, and
Is
I'm
it a
not naming
corporation?
them. Yes.
Okay, which one?
I'm not going to do anything that or say anything that could incriminate anybody.
Okay, how
that I
convenient.
know.
How convenient. But
No.
you can't name any other corporation
No,
then.
it's not convenient. It's called being respectful of my husband and where
it's
he
pretty
works.
convenient. So let me get this right. You won't name that corporation, and you also can't name any other corporation. Okay. Shocker. You look at PepsiCo, for example. PepsiCo owns Gatorade. PepsiCo passed the money up to their CEO and then increased the cost on Gatorade and shrunk the size of the product. Gatorade is more expensive today than it was before that corporate tax deduction. Okay, we have to recognize here corporations and corporate greed are to blame for price gouging and higher costs at the grocery store, for example, which is why inflation is at 2.4%, the same it was in 2018, and yet we're still looking at double-digit high costs. That in part has to do with Donald Trump's policies, but also because corporations like Kroger like ripping off middle-class consumers. Their CEO admitted to it a month ago. You want to run away now? Christy, you said you weren't going to run away. What happened? You keep muting yourself. You keep clicking out. I thought you said you weren't going to run away. Are you outmatched? Is that what it is? I thought you MAGA Republicans always claim to have more experience than me, and that life experience is intelligence. I mean, where's that life experience at? You want to unmute? Because again, I ain't mute you. Christy, come back. You want to run away? Christy, my voice is still coming out of your cell phone, and I am now a part of your phone because you haven't actually left the live. You can't just click out of the app. If you're trying to run away, you have to actually leave the app or shut down your phone entirely. So you can shut down your phone entirely or actually leave the live. Again, my voice is now part of your cell phone until the holidays. You understand? I will be there for Thanksgiving. I will be there for your Christmas, Hanukkah. I will be there for your New Year's. I will be that New Year's kiss. You understand? Like, I am part of your phone now. I get you're stressing because you don't know how to get my voice out of your phone. You can either shut down your phone entirely or, oh, there you go. She shut down her phone entirely. She got it. We got a runner. Moo! Moo! Let's get some cow emojis in the chat, please. We got a runner. We got a runner. We got a runner. Oh gosh, she really came up here and thought she was cooking something. It was really weird. Was that not weird? I feel like that was weird. I want to say a massive thank you to Tavia, and also to Tegan and MT.
You dumb nigger.
Why do they do this? Why? Thank you, MT. Thank you, Tegan, and thank you, Tavia. I appreciate it. I just received your Venmos, and that was really nice. I appreciate it. After this, I'm going to go take that, and I'm honestly going to go make cookies for a shelter or something, because the world needs more good in it. The world does not need MAGA Republicans. This is insane. Hi, guest. Are you voting for the criminal?
Oh, no. I hope the Lady Crispy.
I appreciate you coming up. Let's get up our next guest. So I also want to point out something. I get that MAGA Republicans think that by saying that it's going to get the live taken down. They're confused. So I'm a digital strategist. Hi, my name's Johnny. If you don't know some of my work, I'm the guy who programmed the website that counts Donald Trump's debt as it increases with interest down to the cent. That isn't actually how it works. The algorithm's not going to flag me. The algorithm will flag you by IP address. Do you understand? So one more time, MAGA, when you come up and you do something like that, I do not get flagged. You get flagged. Do you understand? So again, MAGA Republicans, when you come up and you start screaming profanities and you think that's going to get me kicked, that does not work. I've been in this industry for a long time. Not as an influencer or whatever. No, I do the behind the scenes coding and stuff. So I'm telling you, that is not how the algorithm works. You get flagged, not the live stream. Understood? Okay. Unmute, guest. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How you doing?
Doing good. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
I'm voting for Donald Trump.
Great. You want to condone or denounce the rhetoric that just took place from your side of the aisle?
Yeah, I don't think that should be happening.
And yet it is, because of your side. And shouldn't that tell you something?
Say again?
Shouldn't the rhetoric you're hearing from your side of the aisle tell you something? Because you don't hear that coming from Democrats.
Well, not on live, I don't know.
You don't hear that coming from Democrats in the news, on live, in person. That is a MAGA specific special. That is like a special Sunday treatment for MAGA Republicans. So shouldn't this tell you something?
You're saying that all MAGA people are just bad.
No, I'm telling you that if you're surrounded by people who are bad, maybe that should tell you something, right? Because if you're surrounded by people who keep running up and spewing rhetoric like that is racist, homophobic, sexist, ableist, maybe that should tell you something. Shouldn't that be a wake-up call?
You got a very good point.
Okay. Now that leads us to our next question, which fits all too well. Why are you voting for somebody who is found liable of sexual abuse, found liable of civil fraud, and who is quite literally a convicted felon on 34 felony counts?
So I like the way he ran the country on last time and his policies, and especially the First Step Act.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Who did Donald Trump's first presidency support? Who did it benefit? Who was it for?
Say the question again.
Who was Donald Trump's presidency for? You mentioned his first term. Who did it support? Who did it help? And are any of them in this live stream, if you could break it down?
Well, helped out a lot, help a few people that I know.
That's so great. But I'm not going off of personal feelings. I'm trying to go off of facts, if you will. So can you break down again, who was Donald Trump's presidency for?
It's for the people. He's working for the people.
Okay. So let me help you out here. Was it for the LGBTQ plus Americans who he tried to strip away the marriage equality rights of, or more specifically, the T in the LGBTQ plus Americans who were ripped out of the military, those who put their lives on the lines to defend yours and mine, and yet could no longer serve because of Donald Trump's presidency? Was it for the women who lost the right to choose? The women like Kate Cox in Texas who couldn't receive an abortion for her non-viable pregnancy, or women like Amber Thurman, who is no longer here to tell her story? Was it for women like them? Was it for Black Americans who were told that they can vote, but that their vote might not count as much as a white American? Was it for the voters who Donald Trump tried to overthrow the election results of to keep himself in office? Was it for middle-class Americans who experienced a $230 billion tax hike and $8 trillion deficit from Donald Trump's economy? Was it for the farmers who lost their farms, and if they didn't, had to raise costs on their consumers because of his tariffs? Who was it for?
He worked for the American people.
I'm an American person. Donald Trump didn't work for me.
I just question.
So who did it work for?
The American people. That's what his job is for. Well,
am I not an American person? Do I not count to you?
You live in America?
Yeah.
Then you count.
But his economy didn't consist of me. It didn't care for me. It didn't care for me socially or economically. So why me, a rural American, middle class, his economy didn't do it for me. It hurt me. I was a small business operator. His small business treatment and his tariffs hurt me. So please stop saying it was for Americans. No, it wasn't. Who was it for, though? Can you tell us that?
So you're blaming Trump for your small business failure?
I'm telling you that you can't make a blanket statement saying that Donald Trump's economy and his presidency was for Americans. I'm telling you it wasn't for me, and it wasn't for Black Americans, LGBTQ plus Americans, women, voters, the middle class, farmers, small business owners, or anybody who wasn't named Jeff Bezos. So can you tell us who it was for?
I brought First Care Act, and you're bringing up the economy.
This is a great pivot. I appreciate it.
No, you're the one who
You don't want to answer?
You're the one who pivot.
You don't want to answer? You really don't want to answer?
First Care Act.
Okay.
Did I not?
Why aren't you answering?
Why didn't you answer?
Why are you bringing up, for example, the First Care Act, which literally didn't pass the Senate? I want to talk about what Donald Trump actually did do.
It passed into law.
Thank you. I want to talk about what you're talking about, Donald Trump's efforts to repeal and replace the ACA. Do you understand he didn't?
What? What's the First Care Act?
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the ACHA. Take a step back. I thought you were talking about the AHCA. You said no economy. Are you not talking about healthcare?
I'm talking about the First Step Act.
I want to look this up.
Oh, you don't know what the First Step Act is?
No, do I give a shit? Hold on. First Act. Shh. The bipartisan legislation aimed primarily at reducing recidivism. Cool.
Awesome. Okay. Great.
And?
Good policy, huh?
Yeah, sure. Now, hold on. You understand I don't hate everything Donald Trump did, right?
Well, name one.
Sure. Donald Trump provided an animal cruelty bill that supported animals and pets from their abusive owners.
What did he do good for the American people?
Literally nothing. So give me a step back. Let me jump back into this. So again, hold on. I appreciate this, but I'm going to ABC News right now. And so I see that there was a limited scope, that it did not go far enough in addressing systemic issues within the criminal justice system. Oddly enough, what a shock. Disparities in impact, the benefits. You want to explain why it didn't go far enough and there was a limited scope? I appreciate it. Hold on. Take a step back and let me speak. Why are you trying to cut me off? You asked me to look this up. I am. So there were public safety concerns. Potential risks to public safety if more inmates are released early. I don't know why he wanted to release inmates early. Limited retroactivity. While the act made certain sentencing reforms retroactive, it did not address all past convictions. Why wouldn't he do that? Okay. Disparities in impact. The benefits of the act did not equally reach all communities, specifically marginalized groups who still face systemic biases. Okay. But taking a step back, again, I want to recognize. So you're going to base your whole conversation about this bill that quite literally does have issues within its markings. And I also want to recognize that I don't have an issue with everything Donald Trump has done. I have an issue with almost everything he has done, but not everything he has done. Now, this sounds like it was pretty good, and it sounds like he needed to wipe out some flaws here, but that's just his biases showing, and he could have done better. But taking a step back, I'm not done. I'm not done.
No.
I appreciate I appreciate that you're going to agree on that, but I want to take a step back. Again, this sounds like it could have been good. and yet his biases were showing, for example, in the limited scope and the retroactivity. But I want to point out in more important terms here that using this as a blanket statement saying, well, Donald Trump provided this one thing doesn't help the overall American population when you have, for example, Black Americans who are overwhelmingly unemployed, Black Americans who needed more access to healthcare, rural Americans who had no access to healthcare via infrastructure, who are now benefiting from programs like the infrastructure package that benefits them and rebuilds their roads and bridges and communities. But it seems like you're offering Donald Trump a standing ovation for one stance that actually could have gone further instead of applauding Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for all the work they did. Because then why aren't you talking about, like, you're bringing up this bipartisan bill and that's great, right? I mean, Donald Trump signed it and I'm glad he did. And that Democrats worked with Republicans and Republicans worked with Democrats to pass it. And I'm glad Donald Trump signed it. But this doesn't solve the overarching issue with Donald Trump, right? Because again, we recognize Donald Trump's economy wasn't middle class focused or benefiting farmers, rural Americans, Black Americans, small business owners, women, that his his healthcare stance to strip away healthcare coverage from most Americans, like, I mean, literally, he was going to strip away healthcare from millions of Americans without replacing the ACA. We recognize that Donald Trump's stance on the military, trying to rip transgender Americans out of the military, I get what you're trying to do. You're saying he's done something right. And I'll tell you again, he's done something right. It could have done better. He signed this and I applaud him for that. There was a bipartisan bill. That's great. But this isn't like, do you got any other talking points? Like, is this it? Is this all you got?
Yeah, I can. Let's talk about AB.
Can we take a step back here?
Yeah, you asked if I could talk about something.
I bring up Donald Trump's economy and how it benefits corporations, and you're not talking about that. Is there a reason why you don't want to talk about it?
Talk about what again?
That economy.
I don't want to talk. No, I have no.
Is there a reason why you don't want to talk about it? Because that's the most important issue. Nationally recognized. Maybe not to you. I don't care about you, respectfully. I care about Americans as a whole. And the economy is the most important issue on people's mind right now. Also, immigration and the border, and we'll talk about those too. But if you can't defend Donald Trump's economy, then say that. There's a reason you don't want to talk about it.
I got nothing bad to say about his economy.
Right. You're voting for Donald Trump. So do you want to talk about the good things? I'm not asking you to say bad things about his economy. I'm telling you to tell me who his economy was for. Because we know it wasn't for small business owners. We know it wasn't for farmers. We know it wasn't for women. We know that it wasn't for Black Americans. We know that it was for corporations and not the middle class. But if you want to combat that, please do. Because this is one of the most important issues on the minds of voters.
Well, you said you failed under Trump's administration, right? Over a failed business?
Oh, no, I didn't fail. I persevered. There's a difference. But if you can break down again, Donald Trump's policies here on this, that'd be great.
See, I didn't fail. I kept on moving. Nothing happened.
So congrats. So you also persevered. You defied all odds when Donald Trump tried to slap you down and steamroll you with his corporate tax deduction of 14%. When he tried to stumble you in your footsteps with his tariffs, you saying you persevered. Congrats. But you're still voting for him. So let me ask you again. Can you tell me a policy he passed that economically benefited middle-class Americans? Like, can we talk about this economy, or is this really something you won't entertain because you just don't know?
Yeah, his actual tax plan was great.
The tax plan.
Yeah, the First Care Act. Can you name one corporation that got advantage from his tax cuts?
Sure. For example, Microsoft benefited from Donald Trump's corporate tax deduction, and then they passed up the money to their CEO. Take a step back. How much money are you making a year?
More than 100K.
Okay. So can you tell me, are you trying to justify here? Do you have corporate interests? Are you trying to justify why middle-class Americans should be paying into the corporate pockets? Or what are we getting at here?
No, there's no facts about what you're saying about the corporates getting.
There literally is. So for example, corporations received a 14% corporate tax deduction. Pay attention.
You know what the money's being spent on.
Pay attention. You're really trying to lead the conversation here. You understand you walked into my live stream, correct? right?
I've been trying to for a while.
But I'm really trying to understand here what your stance is. And it sounds like you either have corporate interests or you're making the case for why middle-class Americans should be feeding into corporations. So tell me again, without bringing up some fucking stupid bill that nobody gives a shit about, the 14% corporate tax deduction, can you justify why Donald Trump would give that to corporations and then 1 to 2% to the middle class? Which is a massive discrepancy, especially when you recognize corporations, again, I'll mention Microsoft, who are making record high profits. If you need to Google, that's fine. But if you could talk about the economy a little bit here, it would make this conversation more productive, I think.
And again, there's there proof out there saying exactly how
Yes, sir, you can go look at any source you want.
It's not there.
Sir, this isn't...
Yeah.
What do you think I'm doing here? Making up the 14% corporate tax deduction?
It's you.
Do you understand? Hold on. Do you understand that there was a 14% corporate tax deduction? Yes or no?
Was it more than that?
No. So do you understand that there was a 14% corporate tax deduction? Yes or no?
I thought it was more than that.
You're not answering.
Yes, I am. I answered. I thought it was more than that.
You didn't answer. Do you understand that there was a 14% corporate tax deduction? Yes or no?
No, I thought it was more than that.
What am I supposed to do here for you? What, like,
was it not more than that?
If you were in my shoes, where would you go from here?
Let's talk about AB.
No. You want to talk about AB? Let's talk about abortion.
That's AB.
That's great and dandy. So let's talk about abortion. Okay? Because I get you don't want to talk about the economy. I get you're trying to, I want to point out, you do not want to talk about the economy. You refuse to talk about the economy. And that is because you can't defend Donald Trump's economic stance. Okay? That is the fact, which is why, for example, when I mentioned the 14% corporate tax deduction, you don't know the answer. Okay. And instead you say, well, I thought it was more than that. When in fact, again, when I mentioned the 14% corporate tax deduction once more, you suggest that that doesn't exist and that you'd like proof as to what corporations received it. And when I mention one, you say there's no evidence of that when there in fact is. This is a simple Google search. And this is also within the policy. This isn't actually, this is also within the policy. Okay. So now once more, I want to point out that we are not pivoting from the economy because I don't want to talk about it. I very much want to. It's because you refuse to engage in a conversation with me on it. So now let's talk about abortion. Actually, I'm not jumping back here. You have been pivoting and ignoring my questions and the stats for 5 minutes of my time. You won't take 5 more. So one more time, I'm making clear I want to talk about the economy. You won't let me. So we will now pivot to abortion because I'm tired of playing with you. Okay? Tell me about your stance on abortion. Go ahead.
Everybody's blaming Trump for getting moved to the states. Well, actually, the state's fault for making the problems.
Do you believe in exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother?
Yes.
Okay. What is your weekly cutoff as well? Right now we see an average of 18 to 24 weeks because that is when a pregnancy starts to become viable.
Hold on. I just told you I don't believe that's Trump's fault for moving the AB.
And that's great. We're going to come back to that, but I need to understand where you stand on abortion. And the fact that you just pivoted from that question makes me worrisome. So again, what is your weekly cutoff? If you could answer that.
Of AB? I think if you
18,
like
24 weeks.
Been great or incest or anything like that.
Okay, so if it's not grape, incest, life of the mother, you're saying 0 weeks.
Yeah.
But to be clear, the fact they had to pry at a tooth to get that out of you and you once again won't even engage in the conversation that you just tried to bring up being abortion, that is odd. So now let's understand Donald Trump nominated 3 Supreme Court justices who went on and overturned Roe v. Wade with the sole intention of doing so. And Donald Trump takes credit for this. So when you say, well, people are blaming Donald Trump for overturning Roe v. Wade, correct, because he takes credit for it. Do you recognize this?
He did say that, yes.
Okay. So this is why he would be blamed for overturning Roe v. Wade. Because not only does he take credit for it, but he in fact is the man who appointed the justices who did it. And then you're blaming states. So you believe that states are having extreme stances on abortion. Is that an accurate statement I just made? Do you believe that states are taking it too far?
Yes, some states.
Okay. That would be pardon the cough. Need my inhaler. That would be because of Donald Trump. For example, Kate Cox in Texas could not receive an abortion for a non-viable pregnancy. That is because of Greg Abbott, and Greg Abbott was able to do that because of Donald Trump. So it is because of Donald Trump. Amber Thurman is not here with us today because she lost her life due to an extreme abortion ban, thanks to Brian Kemp, thanks to Donald Trump. You can't take Donald Trump out of the equation. This is because of him.
The people wanted it to go back to the states.
The people, yeah. The people
It's in
want
it.
back
Ma'am,
to
get on the phone. Put her on the phone.
she's right.
If she's going to jump in, I want to talk to her too. If we're going to talk about abortion, let's get a woman in the conversation. Just seems right.
he said that since you're a woman.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Come on in. So I want to recognize here that Donald Trump didn't pass this right down to the states. He passed it up to the states and out of the hands of women. Because you can't have politicians in the waiting rooms and doctors' offices of women. Instead, he said, we're going to put them there. So that's not giving the right to the state. That's taking it away from women and passing it up to the state. Because that was to the people. The people had the right. Now they don't. Now their government has the right.
Not in the state of Kansas.
No.
No, that's the fact. Think about it. Here's an example. For example, a woman in Texas had the right to have an abortion because it was her body, her choice. Donald Trump took away Roe v. Wade, which protected that choice and was the law of the land for 50 years. And then that right was taken away from a woman because she could no longer make that choice for herself. It was passed up to her state government, who was above her. And now they pick if she gets to choose or not. And in Texas, she doesn't. So it's not passing it down to the states. It was passing it up to the state, out of the hands of women.
Why couldn't the other states like Kansas automatically voted for it?
Well, you're telling women, for example, like those in Texas, who are outnumbered by men, for example, or more right-leaning conservatives who may disagree with their right to choose as women, you're telling those women, well, you live in a state where you're outnumbered. So even though there's millions of you women in Texas, you're going to have to pick up your roots and move to a democratic state if you want the same rights as men, if you want to be treated equally and have your right to choose. I mean, can you tell me a policy that mandates or challenges the rights of a man's body? You and I are not legislated, but your wife or fiance, I apologize, I don't know who she is, your wife, I don't know. She now does not have that right to choose in most states because of Donald Trump. She did before. I still can choose. You still get to choose. She doesn't. But so you're telling her if she lives in a Republican state, she has to pick up and move to Pennsylvania, for example, where she can choose. Why should she have to deroot her home and move her community across the country just so she could be treated equally to men? That's not fair.
She lives in a red state, a conservative state, which mostly are women.
And that's great. And so once again, you're telling a mass amount of women, for example, the millions of Democratic women in Texas who want that right to choose, who want their daughters to be treated equally to their sons, you're telling them to get up and move over a state into Arizona, for example, where they will have that right to choose.
I'm not saying that. Why can't they fight?
But that is why they did fight for decades. Then they finally had Roe v. Wade.
Kansas had to do?
Hold on. You're saying, why can't they fight? They did. They fought for decades. That's what Roe v. Wade was the product of. Roe v. Wade was the product of that fight.
Kansas fought for
You took
3
it away.
months and got it.
Right. Roe v. Wade was the product of their decades fight. You took it away. Not you, but your party took it away. Do you understand? So you're saying, why can't they fight? Why should they have to fight? Our grandmothers fought for decades so that their daughters and granddaughters could have that right, which you took away a couple years ago, that being Roe v. Wade. It was the law of the land for 50 years. This fight ended 50 years ago. Now it's all over again, though, because your party.
Wade wasn't a law.
Okay, Roe v. Wade was a decision by the Supreme Court.
Which wasn't a law.
Sir, this was the law of the land. This is precedence.
Was that a signed law?
Would you like to take away marriage equality next? Is that what you're getting at?
I'm not asking a question. Was it a signed law?
This was the law of the land.
Was it a signed law?
Law of the land.
It was not. So
law of the land. This was a law.
It wasn't signed. It wasn't a law.
Sir, again, SCOTUS defines the law. This was the law. Same way SCOTUS defines the Constitution, which I understand your party isn't fond of, which is why Donald Trump violated the Second Amendment, for example, because he doesn't understand the Constitution or law. This was defined by the Supreme Court. This is their sole duty. Then Donald Trump's 3 Supreme Court justices overturned it because that's what he implemented them to do. So, I mean, these are people who he picked out solely not based off of qualifications, but based out of, will they overturn this precedence? And that is what they did. And they took away the right from women and passed it up to the state. And you're saying, well, why can't women go fight for the right to choose? They already did. They did 50 years ago. This was decided. This was 50 years.
Not in their states.
It was. But you're telling them that they should have to do it all over again.
Well, sometimes you got to fight more than you're supposed to.
But you don't have to. They do.
Yeah,
you don't have to. Women do. So let me get this right. So the Republican men in Congress can take away what their grandmothers fought for and tell women of today, fight harder and maybe men won't take it away again? How is that fair?
I fought for it.
Why wouldn't you do the same for marriage equality? Let me get this right. Marriage equality, which was defined by the Supreme Court as the law of the land, an LGBTQ plus couple's right to marry, if that's overturned by the Supreme Court, and we know it's on the chopping block next, are you saying that LGBTQ plus Americans who've been fighting for this for decades, since forever, I mean, are you telling them that they should have to go back to fighting for the right to marry, to be treated as equal?
Well, no, but do they not have to fight in some states to make that right?
But you're not making, this isn't making sense anymore. You're telling women who fought for decades to receive the right to choose that after 50 years of having it as the law of the land, they should go back to fighting. This is what you said. Because sometimes you need to fight more for what you want. The fight was over. They received the right to choose because their grandmothers fought for that. You're saying the states are now fighting. Understood. And yet in many states, women are outnumbered by far-right Republicans who choose the religion over the rights and freedoms of women. So you have women like Kate Cox who couldn't get an abortion for a non-viable pregnancy that was never going to be a baby. Yes, she wanted a baby. She wanted a baby.
Everything you're saying is false because Kansas is.
You're saying everything I'm saying is false.
Massively, women. We got more women population. Everybody's a Christian almost in the state of Kansas. And everybody fought for it.
Let's say 100% of Kansas is Christian. Let's say 100% of Kansas is Republican. Let's say 100% of Kansas is women. So women, Christian, Republicans, and yet. They could still vote. They could still vote for the right to choose. And yet, they shouldn't have to. This shouldn't be a fight in the states. Because again, women fought for decades to receive the right to choose. And 50 years ago, Roe v. Wade was decided. You're telling women, well, you should go fight again. Why aren't we mandating vasectomies? Why don't we do that? That would stop abortions. Do you want to mandate vasectomies?
Man, is it like for me?
Yeah, you, me, all men. Forced vasectomy. That will stop abortion. So do you want to do mandated vasectomies? Why is it that you hesitated when I said that? Be a man, act like it. Show a little courage here. You're saying that you want to mandate a woman's body and force her to make your decision rather than choose for herself. I understand you froze up there.
No.
Rightfully so. Well, hold on.
Stop.
1 second. You froze up there and rightfully so. You should have. Because it should be shocking to you when somebody tries to mandate your body. But that is what your party just did to women. Do you think that they were shocked when they lost their right to choose? Sure as heck were. And so now you just froze up when I said, why don't we do mandated vasectomies? You didn't know what to say.
And guess
so
what
now
happened?
I'm going to ask you again. Instead of mandating a woman's body, why don't you mandate your own body? Mandate the body of men. So tell me again, will you advocate for mandatory vasectomies?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Cool. So here's what I want you to do. Prove it. if you actually care about the subject and it's not about controlling women, I'm going to give you the number for Mike Johnson's office, and I want you to give him a call. And I want you to say your name and say that you want him to advocate for mandatory vasectomies and that you want to call back about it. Okay?
I'm going to go ahead and the phone.
All right. All right, folks, if you are just tuning in, hit that like button. Help us get to 300,000 likes. This gentleman right here said that we should be mandating the bodies of women, and that he is happy
I never said
that the rights. Well, you said you were thrilled
Yeah, I never
to
said
support
that.
Donald
Did I
Trump
not?
and Donald
Okay, there
Trump.
you go.
You said you were happy, yeah. You did. You also explained that you were very thrilled with Donald Trump having overturned Roe v. Wade, and that you feel it should be back in the States.
Now you're lying.
This isn't lying.
No, you're lying.
No, I'm not.
Did I say I was thrilled? Did
Yes.
I say that?
No, you didn't.
no, I
I've been
didn't.
here the whole time.
No, I
Ma'am,
didn't.
you're his sister wife. I really don't care what you have to say. Sir, listen very closely.
You can fuck off.
You made very clear what you said, and I recognize that.
I never used.
I'm not gonna entertain it. We all heard it. So get ready. I'll write down, write down this number. You ready? Let me know when you're ready.
Sure. Go for it.
Okay. 202 225 2777.
202.
225.
What's the area code? 202.
202 225.
What's the area code? 202.
This is Washington, D.C. This is his office. If you get a full voicemail, which his voicemail's not full, so then that means he shut it down so that people couldn't contact him, which isn't a shock with MAGA Republicans like Mike Johnson, but we'll try our best here. So it's 202 225 2777.
Thank you. I'll make that call as soon as I can.
Yeah, call right now. You said you have another phone?
Oh,
go ahead.
Yeah, I got another phone.
Yeah, go on. Call.
Hang on.
And don't worry, if he doesn't pick up, don't get too excited. We got 3 other phone numbers for him, including his personal line.
So what's
That's
his
from
number?
a friend.
202
225 2777. 202 225 2777. David, thank you so much for $5 for Rock's vasectomy funds. He said, let's get some W. Davids in the chat.
5 didn't answer. You've reached the voicemail of Honorable M. Johnson, main line 2. Please leave a message.
Yeah, I was talking to this guy named Johnny Pasco, whatever his name is, and he wants to mandate.
This is not what you were supposed to do.
So,
wow.
I don't know what you want to do.
This
Want to
is
give him a call?
pathetic.
He's on Facebook Live, right? Or on the TikTok
I don't even know
Live.
what platform you're on.
So you might want to give him a call because he really wants to support man getting their nuts cut. Thank you. All right, I made a phone call.
Yeah, do you see how you had said that you would be for mandating vasectomies after I explained that you want? Do you see how? Hold on. Do you see how disingenuous you are? Why do you just made clear you wanted to mandate a woman's body, and when I pointed out the hypocrisy in this, and when I pointed out how that's not pro-freedom and that's anti-women and it's pro-forced birth, not pro-life, and we went through an entire conversation about this, I then asked you, well, would you want to mandate vasectomies? You said, sure, tricking the women in this channel into thinking that you might actually be open to seeing the hypocrisy in your argument, and then you doubled down. I'm not done. Then you doubled down on the hypocrisy and said, Johnny made me do this and Johnny wants to do vasectomy. That's not what you originally said. Why would you double down on your hypocrisy?
I voted for it.
Let me get this right.
I voted to keep it.
You solely made the decision to attack women on this live. Listen very closely, sir. Listen very closely. You are a
Why don't you
full-blown
listen to
hypocrite.
what he just
All
said?
right, I'm going to actually tell you both to shut up. So listen very closely here, okay? You were a hypocrite through and through. You mocked women on this channel with your sister wife. You mocked women, told them they should have no right to choose. When I explained that there's not a single law mandating a man's body, you said, well, let's change that. And I said mandatory vasectomies. And then you doubled down and mocked women even further on this channel. You should be embarrassed of yourself.
You know, I got
you should be embarrassed of yourself. And for you to then continue and say, well, women should fight if they want the right to choose. Actual words that came out of your mouth. You said women should fight if they want the right to choose. Mind you, this is all on film. Those were words that came out of your mouth, even though you know, just as well as I do, that women, our grandmothers, fought for decades to have the right to choose, that being Roe v. Wade, and your party, overturned it. But you want them, in your mind, again, your words, you said, well, they should keep fighting if that's what they want. This is insane. This is insane. And the hypocrisy is surreal. But the fact you just doubled down and the fact you just doubled down and further mocked the women on this live. So let's do 10 seconds here. To the women in this channel, say whatever you want to say to him while he's here, because we're going to get him out in about 15 seconds. So comment what you'd like him to know. I want you to take a look at the comments here, guys. Let's have the women say something to you or two. Just take a breather and look at the comment section. I want them to be able to say something to you because I think it's justified. Yep. Now, again to the women in this live, on the count of 3, and this one's for you, let's comment hocus pocus. 3, 2, 1. Hocus pocus. Poof! And he's gone! He's gone! Good riddance! So let's get this right. He really just tried. He mocked women, belittled women, and then told women that they shouldn't have the right to vote. And then when I pointed out his hypocrisy in his argument, he doubled down and further mocked women. Wow. Yeah, maybe this is why Donald Trump isn't winning women. Just a thought. Could be something else, but I'm pretty sure this is why he's not winning women. Yeah. Okay, let's get up our next guest. Folks, again, if you are voting for Donald Trump, join the guest request and let's have a conversation about it. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Hello, guest. Are you voting for Donald Trump? Okay, guess not. Let's get up our next guest. Oh, sorry about that, folks. I didn't mean to cough right in there. I just took my inhaler. Sorry. All right. Hi, guest. Are you voting for Donald Trump? Okay, guess not. What is going on? Folks, if you like what you're hearing today and you want to support me, feel free to do so by either hitting that follow button in the top left corner, or if you want to support me via Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App, that's in my bio. Also, I got to do a poll. I need your help picking out my Halloween costume for a Halloween live stream. So if you have any suggestions on what I should dress up as, feel free to comment that below. I got to get my Halloween costume for a Halloween live stream. All right, guest. Hi, are you voting for Donald Trump?
Hi, I'm leaning towards it.
And why are you leaning towards a felon, civil fraudster, sexual abuser?
Well, I gotta tell you, I probably don't know as much as you do and everything about the economy and policies, but
what state are you from?
I'm from Canada.
Sorry, are you able to vote?
I am. I was from Canada.
Gotcha. So again, what state are you from?
Oh, sorry. Now I live in Ohio.
What time is it?
At the moment, it's 6:50.
Cool. All right. And so why are you leaning towards a felon?
I feel like he's someone that could help have less war.
Did you say nice wall?
Sorry? No, have less war.
Oh, less war. Okay. Well, let's recognize Donald Trump didn't help the first time, right? We understand that Donald Trump oversaw a genocide and starvation in Yemen. We could talk about him abandoning the Kurds. We could talk about Afghanistan and so on and so forth. We could talk about his awful ties to Vladimir Putin. And we could talk about how he wasn't able to negotiate a simple deal with Vladimir Putin to bring home U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, who was wrongfully detained in Russia. Yet you want me to understand or comprehend or believe that he could possibly negotiate a deal to what? End the conflict between Ukraine and Russia? So tell me again. And let's talk a little bit more about war and foreign policy. How is Donald Trump going to end the conflict between Ukraine and Russia?
Do you think that he will be able to settle a deal with Ukraine and Russia?
Where's your accent from?
From Canada, I told you.
Well, that's not
I'm
a
from
Canadian
Montreal.
accent. So what's the accent from?
I'm from Montreal.
This isn't a Montreal accent. You know, I'm not that far from Canada, right?
I don't know what to tell you. I'm from Montreal. My parents are half French and half Algerian, but I grew up in Montreal and moved to Ohio.
Gotcha. So tell me, how is he going to end the conflict between Russia and Ukraine?
Don't you feel like he has more influence on foreign policies?
Considering he couldn't negotiate a simple deal to bring home a Marine who was detained by Vladimir Putin, no, you can't convince me that he can negotiate a deal to get Vladimir Putin out of his invasion. So if you want to break down how he would do such a thing, that'd be great.
Like I told you, I probably don't know as much as you do.
So you bring up foreign policy. You bring up Donald Trump's stance with foreign policy. You bring up war, and you can't tell me Donald Trump's plan to end the conflict between Ukraine and Russia.
Sometimes it could be about fear. Sometimes he could just
This
be
isn't
the one
coherent.
that
Let me say this one more time. You brought up war. You brought up foreign policy. You, not me. So why can't you tell me what Donald Trump's plan is to end the conflict between Ukraine and Russia?
So if someone like Donald Trump says that he will bomb another country, and the country believes him, the country might react differently than if Kamala Harris says that she will stop.
So you're
the war
saying
or send
that the
troops.
plan here is for Donald Trump to threaten to bomb Russia. And then what happens when Russia says, oh, well, by threatening to bomb us, you've provoked us to bomb you. Now you have war on your soil. Now what?
How else can you settle a war?
Right. Through diplomacy?
Has that worked before?
Yeah. So here's an idea. Instead of saying the way to solve this is by bombing Russia and going to war, maybe if you want less war, try diplomacy and foreign policy. Something that, for example, Joe Biden has tried and successfully accomplished. Because one more time, while Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin didn't negotiate a deal to bring home U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, do you know who did? Joe Biden. Okay, so tell me again, what is Donald Trump's plan to end the conflict between Ukraine and Russia?
Honestly, my guess is power.
That doesn't make sense.
Diplomacy could be an answer to everything, and I'm on your side on this. I wish that they could just talk it out.
Please
but I
don't say
think
you're
that's
on my
possible.
side. I would very much not I would not want to be on your side here because I'm not advocating for war. That's what you just did. So you don't know how Donald Trump would end the conflict. Just say it. If you're refusing to answer, so just say you can. Okay, exactly. No shame in admitting that you don't know. So Donald Trump has made very clear that his way of ending the conflict is by dehoming Ukrainian citizens and offering the land that's already been seized by Russia to Vladimir Putin, and then offering Vladimir Putin first pick at the dinner table for whatever else he wants from Ukraine. He will then take any weaponry and funding offered to Ukraine from Congress back, and that is how he believes he'll be ending this conflict, which we recognize not only one is that an attack on a sovereign nation and democracy at its finest, but also an attack on freedom, and furthermore, setting the stage for Vladimir Putin to claim that as a success and then attack Poland, who is, as we speak, upping their arsenal and their military and their wall to avoid having the same fate as Ukraine.
You're actually teaching me stuff, but can you tell me, what's Kamala's plan to stop the war?
Right. By supporting Ukraine and by following the Budapest Memorandum. In the 90s, we signed a deal to denuclearize Ukraine. This took the nukes so that should they get invaded by Russia, they didn't respond through nuclear power. And God bless, right? Because this would be a different conversation if they were still nuclearized, don't you think? So now, because they aren't, and because we offered them weaponry through funding, they're fighting back and toppling Vladimir Putin's economy until he has no choice but to give up, because he's losing lives at a higher rate. He is losing his economy, and he is making himself look like a fool on the global stage. That's the plan. And it's a plan that's doing pretty well right now, because again, his economy is in the trash. But let's also now look no further, because you couldn't tell me about that conflict. Tell me, what is Donald Trump's plan to end the conflict between Israel and Gaza?
I don't think he can end the conflict in Israel and Gaza yet. I don't think, I don't know if he does have a plan.
He does. You said you were voting for him? You said you were voting for him, correct?
I'm leaning towards it.
Okay, so
I'm still trying to understand it all.
what's his plan? Again, I didn't bring up war. I didn't bring up foreign policy. You brought this up. You didn't know about the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, what his plan was. I explained. Can you now explain to me his solution to end the conflict between Gaza and Israel?
Well, just to go back on the Ukraine Russia, I just have one
Now
thing
you
to
want
say.
to go back?
You say
So again, I'm trying to move forward here, and I appreciate the pivot back. You could have said this 5 minutes ago when we were talking about Ukraine and Russia. If it took you this long to think of something, that's fine and dandy. So we can come back to that. But to stay here before you pivot, I understand you're trying. Don't gaslight. Don't get upset. I understand that you're trying to pivot because I just asked you a question. If you don't know Donald Trump's solution to the conflict between Gaza and Israel, say that and then pivot.
All right. So you're saying that war is not the answer to end war, but then you're saying that we need to fund Ukraine so that they are more powerful and they can have more war so that they can make Russia stop fighting. So your solution to war is more war. At the end of the day.
And actually what you just said was
indirect way.
What you just said, one, was a misinterpretation, and two, kind of incoherent. So maybe work on that pivot again before you try to do so. So before you pivot to Ukraine and Russia, I'm going to ask you one more time. Do you know what Donald Trump's solution is to end the conflict between Israel and Gaza?
I don't.
Okay. Was that hard? So now, when you don't know what Donald Trump's solution is to end the conflict between Israel and Gaza, when you don't know what Donald Trump's solution is to end the conflict, the invasion between Ukraine and Russia, why would you bring up war? Why would you bring up foreign policy? And that's rhetorical. We don't need to waste any more of my time. That was rhetorical. So I would suggest here, getting more educated on the candidate, because when you say you're leaning towards voting for him based off of something you know not one thing about, that speaks volumes to your either miseducation or uneducation. So before you vote away your rights and the rights of American citizens across the country, do yourself a favor and try to get more educated. On the count of three, everybody, hocus pocus. 3, 2, 1. Hocus pocus. Poof. And he's gone. Let's get up our next guest. Oh my gosh. This is nonsense. Folks, if you
off my neck right there, so much chest.
Patricia?
I don't have no damn skin left.
You have no what?
I don't know what that thing is. I'm sitting on it. What was you gonna call?
Hey, I hope you figure out whatever that was. Bobby, you've been up more than once now. Why do you keep coming back?
I've been here one time.
It says you've been here twice.
No, I haven't been up here twice.
Okay, have you been up here before?
Yeah, I was up here once and you kicked me off because I said something about the stock market.
Sure. Question for you. Sure. It says you've been up here multiple times before. Why do you keep coming back? Is it like you think this is a buffet?
I came back one time.
It is. So you come up here, you get a taste, you're like, oh, that was a great sample. Let me come back for a fucking buffet. Here's an idea.
It was more like this, dude.
When I tell you don't come back, you don't come back. Just a thought. It literally says you've been up here twice before. I'm supposed to have you sit up here. I'm supposed to entertain you. Like you want a second helping, a third helping of Johnny? Please, please do not. You don't. This ain't free. He was a fan. He was a MAGA Republican and a fan. He was really interested, apparently. I think it's weird when they come back like 3 times because it's like... All right, let's get up our next guest, folks. If you are voting for Donald Trump, join the guest request and let's have a conversation about it. If you're voting for Kamala Harris, hit that like button. Help us get to 400,000 likes. And if you do want to support me, folks, and maybe you like what you're hearing today, my Venmo, my PayPal, my Cash App are in the bio. Also, side note, what should I dress up as for Halloween? For our Halloween stream, what should I be dressing up as? What's my costume here? Help me out, folks. JD Vance. I should dress up as JD Vance. Oh, I might do that. I could do that. I could do JD Vance. Trying to get our Republicans up here. No Republican seems to want to come up anymore. What happened? Here, let's see. There's some very vocal MAGA Republicans in the chat. Folks, if you're voting for Donald Trump, comment MAGA and I'll bring you up here. I'm sure they're all going to start commenting it now, right? I'm sure that they won't chicken out and be too shy. Folks, again, if you're voting for Donald Trump, comment MAGA and I'll get you up here. Tracy says Sailor Moon. Tracy, I'm not dressing up as Sailor Moon. Trying to get a MAGA Republican up here. I don't know why they're so scared. Notice how I said, if you're voting for Donald Trump, comment MAGA and I'll get you up here. And all the keyboard warriors who were originally saying, Donald Trump, blah, 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 Johnny sucks, they all went quiet. Like, did everybody notice I said comment MAGA if you're a Trump supporter and I'll invite you up? And they all ceased to exist somehow. They all shut their mouths very quick. That was weird. Hi, guest. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So why do you support the convicted felon, sexual abuser, civil fraudster, rapist?
I just like him more.
Is it like the sexual abuse thing?
Why? But I live in Washington.
So let me get that right. So do you like the sexual abuse part more? Do you like that he defrauded the middle class? Do you like the felonies?
No.
Do you just hate our police? Is that why you like him more? You really got a problem with police?
No. I just like him more.
You like felons? More as a person?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's just my opinion, yeah.
And you came up here on a debate platform to say you're crushing on Donald Trump solely based off of him as a person. Dude, if that's what you got, listen, if it's a kink for the haircut and tiny hands, Democrats can do that too. Does this work? Are you now tempted to vote? Are you tempted to vote for Kamala Harris now that we have tiny little bit of baby hands and a yellow haircut? Oh, I should put some orange bronzer on my face too. Is that it? Do you like the fake tan?
No, I mean, this isn't really funny.
I mean, this is pretty funny. You just don't have a sense of humor. That's fine. You MAGA Republicans never do have a sense of humor, so what else is new?
No, that wasn't funny at all. Anytime a Republican...
Anyway, so you're voting for a criminal, felon, sexual abuser because it's in your personal preference. You like his haircut? You like his body? What is it?
I never said that once.
You said you like him as a person, so you like his body. Because obviously you don't like his character. He's a felon.
Everyone said I like his body.
Well, let's deduct our reasoning here. You're not voting based off of policy. You're not voting based off of character because, again, he's a felon and sexual abuser, and you just said you don't support that. So then what are we left with? His body. His big body. So you're voting for his body.
I just like him more as a person.
Right. By person, you mean his person, his body.
No.
Okay, well, you're not answering any other reasoning here.
You bring up his body, you're obsessed with it.
That's what you just said you were... What's the gaslighting here? You just said you were voting for him based off of his body.
By mocking him, and now you keep bringing up his body.
I'm not mocking him.
I never said anything about his body.
Okay, so one more time. You said you weren't voting based off of policy, so we cut that out. You're not voting based off of character because you said you disagree with his character. I mean, he's a sexual abuser, civil fraudster, felon. So what are we left with? You said you're voting for him based off of his person, and that's his body. So
no, I never once said his body.
That's exactly. You said his body.
Dude. It's funny that you want to say that.
Didn't you just say I'm not funny? Now you're laughing and saying I'm funny?
I'm saying what you just said is funny. I'm not saying. I said you mocking him wasn't funny, and you were trying to be funny. But when you weren't trying to be funny, you were funny, and when you tried to be funny, it wasn't funny at all.
You got a lot of emotions going on here. Why are you so sensitive? So let me do this one more time.
You're the one that was you just said in the Trump wig, bro, and you're saying I have emotion.
Okay, so you just said you weren't voting based off of policy, and you don't agree with his character because he's a felon, sexual abuser.
Hey, so you said you support him as a person. 15-year-old right now, by the way.
What is going on here?
15-year-old, by the way.
Your profile says you're an adult. Sorry, I trusted that. So let's get this right. So MAGA Republicans come up here, and they lie about their age, say homophobic, sexist, racist things, say they're voting for Donald Trump. I mean, he literally said he was voting for Donald Trump and then claims he isn't old enough to vote. What's going on here? Like, when you say you were voting for Donald Trump, you are saying you are old enough to vote. Do you understand that? Like, what is that? One more time, let me ask this. So, MAGA Republicans, when you come up here and say you are voting for Donald Trump, when I say, are you voting for Donald Trump? And you say, yes, I'm voting for Donald Trump. That means you're old enough to vote. If you aren't old enough to vote, then don't lie, because it's weird. What's the, and he was straight up gaslighting. He got upset because I called him out for what he said, and that's fine. People have a right to get upset when they get slapped down. It's fine. You get slapped down by somebody you don't know, you have every right to get upset and cry about it. And that's okay. You can cry more, MAGA. MAGA Republicans, you can cry so much more. In fact, we'll collect your tears in a mug.
Hello?
Hi, guest. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
Hell no!
Oh, massive W's in the chat, please. Thank you for coming up. Let's get up our next guest. Let's get some W's in the chat. Let's get some W Kamalas in the chat. I might need to restart the live. I feel like I'm going through all the, I'm not getting any normal Republicans. I'm getting insane psychos and crazy, crazy MAGAs. All right, we're going to try a couple more. I'm going to try a couple more. I'm going to restart. Kylie?
Yeah, no, I'm not voting for Trump. I'm voting for Kamala. In fact, I did the other day.
Oh, nice. Let's get some W Kylies in the chat, please. That's awesome. I want to say a huge thank you to David, Lori, and Tivia as well. Thank you so much. I just received your Venmos, and I appreciate that. And thank you for your kind messages as well. Let's get up our next guest. Oh, and who do we have here? And Candido. That's a nice name. Thank you so much as well. I just received your PayPal and Linnea and Candido. Thank you so much. That was very nice. Trying to get up our next guest, but I don't think we're going to get any MAGA Republicans up here. They're all running away. Very, very scared. Again, folks, if you are voting for Donald Trump, join the guest requests. We're going to try a couple more, and then we'll probably have to restart the live because they're all running away. Hi, guest. You voting for Donald Trump?
Nah.
I think I've scared them. At this point, I'm shocked that they're not all just running up and saying the F slur. I'm running away. Hi, guest. You voting for Donald Trump? Okay. I don't know if I should continue or just restart. Chat, what do you think? Because they're all running away. Again, watch this. Folks, if you're here and you're voting for Donald Trump, comment MAGA in the chat. Hello? This guest is having a party. For example, here, Marmar, I'm going to invite you up. Marmar I assume this is a Trumper. Marmar, come on up. Come on up. M-A-R-M-A-R. They're talking smack in the chat. Come on up. Don't be scared. You're saying you're a MAGA Republican. Come on up. Don't be scared. Come on up. Come on, Marmar. Everybody comment. M-A-R. Let's come on up.
Hey, I'm voting for Donald Trump. Can you hear me?
Sometimes I wish I couldn't, but I guess I have to. Because you're all I got now. So why are you voting for the rapist, civil fraudster, felon, sexual abuser, and why are you proud about that?
Oh, because Donald Trump's been running for president for 4 years. And I'm a middle class.
He's been running for president for a decade, not 4 years.
No, he's been running for. That's what Kamala said. I just was repeating what she said. That's an answer to a question, right? So you just say that.
What are you talking about?
The whole idea is the reason.
Isn't it a little early to be sundowning right now?
I'm voting for it because the economy was so much better when he was in charge. And it is worse since Kamala and both Biden were in charge. Period. Simple. Interest rates were lower.
Kamala.
Whatever her name is.
It's not really whatever her name is. What's your first name?
It's Hoot Dugan. You can see it right on there.
That's your first name?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't even need to mispronounce it.
What's that?
I don't even need to mispronounce that name. Your mother's done enough.
And by the way,
tell me again, let's talk about that economy here.
Yeah.
When we look at Donald Trump's economy, you said it was better for who exactly?
It was better for everybody. It was better for me. Inflation was lower.
Are you everybody?
Well, for me, that's good enough. I mean, it was better for my wallet.
So you're saying you're selfish, and that's fine.
Yeah,
you have every right to be that.
Yes.
That's most of you MAGA Republicans, isn't it? Throw everybody else under the bus and steamroll them while putting yourself first. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about what you just claimed. You said inflation was lower under Donald Trump. What's the inflation rate today?
Inflation rate. Well, if I looked at the average when I had pulled it up.
No, thank you. What's the inflation rate
I can't
today?
tell you. You keep cutting me off.
Just say the numerical digit. I'm not asking for your life story.
I would say about 7 or 8%. I'm going to guess.
You just said that the inflation rate today is 7 or 8%.
Yeah. No. Wait a minute. What do you mean by today? What time frame are you looking at? If you're looking at a little sliver right now and say, well, right now it's like 1%, that doesn't count.
Are you trying
I'm
to
looking
count?
for Biden. When did Biden take control? When did Biden?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you trying to? You're trying to change the stat?
No,
by including
you're trying to change the stat.
Pardon me. I'm asking you what's the inflation rate today because this is the time period we are in.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm not done. I'm not done. Listen very closely. I'm not done talking. I wasn't asking you that anymore. I'm making a point now.
Okay, go ahead.
So you just suggested the inflation rate was 7 to 8% because you wanted to bend the 2.4% inflation rate it is today, which is on
you're bending. You're bending, dude.
Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
So will you let me finish?
Go finish.
Okay, thank you. So 2.4% is the inflation rate today, which is the same it was in 2018, which is the miss of Donald Trump's economy before the pandemic hit. But you just tried suggesting that the economy Donald Trump handed over to Joe Biden, the economy that I don't blame Donald Trump for, that included a 9% inflation rate, was somehow Joe Biden's fault. And thus, we need to incorporate that into his 2.4%. I'm not done talking.
Oh, go ahead. Keep talking.
That was your last warning. Okay, so that 2.4% inflation rate, you're trying to bend it to be 7% by incorporating high-end, mid-pandemic inflation rates. So again, what is the inflation rate today?
Inflation rate today, I don't know, but inflation rate
2.4%. I just said it 3 times. Great listening skills.
Yeah,
just said it. 2.4%. Okay, so now let's get back on track here. You didn't know what it was. You tried bending the numbers. Congratulations. Who do you blame for the 9% inflation rate that took place in the midst of the pandemic?
Joe Biden, baby.
You blame Joe Biden for an inflation rate that took place under Donald Trump's economy. And PAR based off of the economy that he shut down when he closed down businesses like the one I used to operate. You're saying that that's Joe Biden's fault, which, mind you, I don't even blame Donald Trump for that because he didn't want a pandemic. It's what he was given. But you're going to blame Joe Biden for Donald Trump's economy from a pandemic Donald Trump wasn't given. That makes sense.
No, I'm looking at is what was the inflation rate when Donald Trump was in power for 4 years? And you want to get off the subject because you wanted to say, what is the inflation rate now?
Have I moved from the subject?
No, you moved from the subject. You're getting away from it. What was the inflation rate when Donald Trump was in power for 4 years? What is the inflation rate and the average when Biden was in power for 4 years?
Yeah. So one more time.
What is it?
So the inflation rate today is 2.4.
There you go.
I'm sorry, you want me to include a 9% inflation rate from the pandemic?
Yeah, you don't want to include it because you're trying to say he didn't do anything.
Pardon me. He brought the inflation rate down. That should be applauded. You're saying that when he stepped into office and immediately had a 9% inflation rate, that's his fault. Frankly, by your logic, that would be Donald Trump's fault, but I'm saying it's not fair to blame Donald Trump for that either. You're saying blame Joe Biden. I'm not done. So you're saying blame Joe Biden for Donald Trump's economic inflation rate that was at the outset of his own economy and his term. Your logic suggests that would be Donald Trump's fault. I'm saying don't blame either of them. That's the pandemic, right? Because a 9% inflation rate isn't typical. And to suggest that Joe Biden caused that when that was at the onset of his term, that's weird. Then it would be Donald. I'm not done. Then it would be Donald Trump's fault. But again, I'm asking you, you're blaming Joe Biden for the pandemic. Yes or no?
I'm blaming Joe Biden for the inflation during his 4 years. That's
because the inflation rate that was caused by the pandemic that he stepped into at an all-time high. You're saying that was his fault.
We're not going to agree.
Think about it. If Joe Biden stepped into office, just was inaugurated and has a high inflation rate, you're saying that's his fault. That's what you're doing right now. That's not normal. One, by your logic, again, that would then mean it's Donald Trump's fault, which I'm not blaming him for that either because
do you remember
he caused the pandemic. Hold on, chat.
You keep turning me down. I can't speak.
The nervous laughter. Am I really making you this nervous?
No, you're just driving me crazy. You just keep talking over everybody like everybody claims you do. Nobody
Not
gets
really.
edgewise.
You just blamed Joe Biden for the pandemic and said that 7 to 9% inflation rate was Joe Biden's fault, even though that's what he stepped into. No, this isn't me putting words in your mouth. You just said this. So chat, do you agree that Joe Biden caused the pandemic? Because this is what this guest here is claiming.
You put words in my mouth.
I did not put words in your mouth. You just said this.
Did I tell you that he caused the pandemic?
So one more time.
You heard me say that. You heard me say that, right?
Yes, I asked you very straightforward. Do you believe that Joe Biden caused the pandemic? And you said, I believe he caused the economic chaos and 9% inflation rate caused by the pandemic.
You're twisting, and I'm
saying word for word.
Can we go one more? Can we go to another topic for a second?
You really want to run away? I want to be clear. I'm not the one trying to pivot here.
No,
this
you
is
just want me to kind of agree with you. I'm not going to agree with you.
Well,
so
I want you to concede. This isn't an agree to disagree.
No, we agree to disagree.
I don't agree to disagree.
We agree to disagree.
I don't agree to disagree
Biden
with conspiracy theorists.
Part of the inflation is when he shut down the
All right, quiet time. Control yourself. Get yourself under control. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get yourself under control. This is getting weird. Okay? You just said, oh, you want to run away? You going to run away? I got the cowbell. You want to cry and run away just like all you MAGA Republicans do because you can't own up to what you just said? You got slapped down on the economy and on stats and now you're going to run away? My voice is still coming out of your cell phone because you didn't leave the live stream. You can either shut down your phone entirely or get your ass back in here and have a conversation with me, yeah? You want to chat or you want to run away? There you go. You shut down your phone. Good boy. Let's get some cow emojis in the chat. Moo. Let's get some cow emojis in the chat. Just like every MAGA Republican always does, you bring up a stat and he runs away. He tries to blame him for the economy. That makes zero sense. He said that Donald Trump wouldn't be to blame for the 9% inflation rate, but Joe Biden would be, even though Joe Biden stepped into that at the onset of his term and Donald Trump left that for Joe Biden. By his logic, by his own logic, Donald Trump would have caused that 9% inflation rate. Hi, guest. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
Sorry, my other phone died, but hell no!
What is going on here? I don't even know what that was. I was given Sweet Home Alabama. Hello, guest. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
Yes, I am.
And why?
Why? I mean, there's many reasons.
Well, you're voting for a rapist, right? So can't be too many reasons. Did you prefer the felonies, the civil fraud, or the sexual abuse? Which was your favorite crime he committed? It's like Pokemon cards. Got to collect them all. Which is your favorite crime he committed? How old are you?
I'm 30 years old.
You're 30 years old and you're voting for a felon. Oh boy, congrats. Your parents must be so proud. So which was your favorite crime he committed?
So I'm prior law enforcement, so I'm not into any crime.
Wow, that doesn't help your case. That actually makes you look ignorant. You understand when, and maybe you should have kept that one in the pocket. When you bring up saying you're law enforcement, nobody looked at this conversation and said, oh gosh darn, he's law enforcement. Maybe we should hear him out and hear and maybe justify why he would vote for a felon. No, they said, oh shit, this guy is a law enforcement officer and he's saying that he's voting for a felon? That's stupid. Sorry, you needed a reality check on that one. Hopefully I'm the first one to give you it. So again, I don't really care about your background, but thank you for your service, but certainly not thank you for your ignorance. Why are you voting for a felon?
No, I will say Trump is not my number one choice.
Well, he's your choice. So
I'm not exactly voting for Trump. I'm voting against Kamala.
Well, that makes zero sense. So you're voting for a felon, sexual abuser, civil fraudster, instead of voting for the prosecutor. Listen, if you couldn't get yourself to vote for Kamala, and you just said that you have no reason to vote for Donald Trump, that you're solely voting to vote against Kamala, don't you think you would keep an inkling or an ounce of integrity and vote for your own interest by not voting? I mean, make it make sense. So you're saying you're voting for a sexual abuser, civil fraudster, felon, rapist to avoid voting for Kamala. Okay, when somebody has integrity, then they just choose not to vote. You're not doing that, though. You're purposefully voting for the man who raped a woman. Okay.
It's more of his policies and Republican views aligned with
That's not
mine.
what you just said. That's not what you just said.
Well, I'm saying as his political views, not as a person.
That's not what you just said. You're changing it now because they slapped you down for having no integrity. That's what happened. Now you're saying, well, I'm voting for him based off of a person. You said solely that you were voting against Kamala by voting for him. When I said, why are you voting for him? You said, well, I'm not voting for, quote, I'm not voting for Donald Trump as a person. You know, I don't have to agree with blah, blah, blah. I'm just voting against Kamala. That's what you said.
No,
that is what you said.
What I said.
Chat, am I wrong or is that what he said? Am I wrong or is that what he said? Am I wrong or is that what he said?
I said I do not like him as a person. I like him for his political views. He does some
Seems
ignorant
like that's not what you said.
things.
And everybody in the chat heard it as well. You said you were voting against Kamala and that you did not care about Donald Trump as a person. When he asked you, why are you voting for a sexual abuser, civil fraudster, felon? You said, well, I'm not voting for him as a person. I'm voting against Kamala. And then you turned around after I said, that means you have no integrity because you would just choose not to vote if you couldn't get yourself to if you couldn't get yourself to vote for the prosecutor, you have no integrity by voting for the felon. But instead, you aren't choosing not to vote. You're choosing to vote for the felon. When I explained that to you, you then said, well, I'm voting for him based off of him as a person, which is a direct contrast, a direct discrepancy between what you just said.
I do not like him as a person, but I do like his political values.
His political values, really.
I think he does some ignorant. He's definitely not my number one choice as a Republican.
Because he's not a Republican.
So he's running as a Republican candidate, but he's not Republican, is what you're saying?
Hands down, this is not a Republican. I have voted for Democrats. I have voted for Republicans. I agree with Democratic and Republican values on different sides of both spectrums here. See, on both sides of the aisle, that's how I was raised. I come from a rural community where we were actually taught to support our law enforcement, which you're not doing by voting for the felon who said we should defund law enforcement on April 5th of 2023. But maybe you were taught differently. So help me understand, why are you voting for a felon?
You know Kamala did the same thing, right?
No. So why are you voting for the felon?
What was that?
You're voting for the felon because?
I said because
on his conservative
I
morals,
his political views and his Christian morals.
Christian morals. There we go. Now I'm understanding the scope of this intolerance. Let me better understand this. So are you using religion to justify stripping away the rights and freedom of women? Because by saying you are voting for him based off of him being a Republican, let's not forget Donald Trump's no Republican. I remember when the Republican Party stood for freedom and when they stood for the military, but your candidate is somebody who exploited the graves of soldiers by mocking them for a photo op and having a police report filed against him by those at Arlington National Cemetery. First person to say they could have that happen. He's the guy who dodged the draft, who saluted a North Korean soldier, who called veterans suckers and losers, who mocked the legacy of John McCain, who refused to negotiate deals to bring home Marines like U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, who refused to hold Vladimir Putin accountable for putting bounties on the heads of our soldiers. Then you have Joe Biden, who passed the PACT Act, which was one of the largest healthcare expansions for veterans in decades. I mean, giving them access to healthcare for pre-existing conditions and also those who are impacted by toxins. But I guess my question for you here is,
done a lot
when
for
you,
the military.
thank you. Yes, of course, he's done so much by slapping them down, spitting on them, and kicking them by the ass. So let me better understand this. You look at Donald Trump, and again, you mentioned your Christian values, which I don't want to conflate with conservative values, because I don't think conservative and Christian values are the same whatsoever anymore. You folks have made that very clear. Do you think it's justified to strip away a woman's right to choose? Do you think that women have a right to their own bodies?
Now, I know that is a hot topic either way.
It's not really. It's kind of very straightforward, I think. It's not really like a hot button issue. It's kind of just what it is.
It's probably one of the hottest political topics there is.
Shouldn't be political. It should be about freedom.
I understand that.
Yeah, so then let's stop acting like it's political.
Okay, so my view on it is a very tough decision. I think...
What?
Well, hold on. I think in the very, maybe first month, again, I'm not a doctor, but maybe in the first couple months, it should be abortions are fine because they don't have really a heartbeat. They're not formed or anything like that. Plan
So you want a
B.
4-week abortion ban?
Again, I didn't say that I'm a doctor, so I'm saying up to that point where it's a full formed.
Do you think it's a full formed fetus at 4 weeks?
No.
Okay, but you just suggested that a woman should be able to seek an abortion for the first month. So let's get this right. In the instance of grape, incest, life of the mother, should a woman be able to have an abortion?
That's a tough one. That's where I could see them that being okay.
Okay. So yes or no? Should a woman be allowed to have an abortion if she's raped? Yes or no?
On that side, I would almost lean more towards yes.
What's with the leaning here? It's like a yes or no. It's like you're hesitating. So for some women, if they're raped, they shouldn't be allowed an abortion, but some, yes. That's what you mean when you say you're leaning towards that. So again, yes or no, if a woman is raped, in any scenario, if a woman is raped, should she be allowed to have an abortion?
I would say I personally wouldn't think not, but I can understand how it's also very hard on them.
This is like a dance around the question. Yes or no? If I'm going to ask one more time and then I'm going to give up because I just don't care. Like if you're not going to answer, then I'm not going to entertain it.
I am answering.
You're not. You're dancing around the question for the third time in a row. If a woman is raped in any scenario, should she be allowed to have an abortion? Yes, she can, or no, she can't.
Okay, I'll put it this way. Yes, I feel like that one is acceptable.
See? That was easy. Now, second question. If a woman is the victim of incest, should she be allowed to have an abortion? Yes or no?
Pretty much yes.
What's with the pretty much? Why are you doing the dancing around it again? It's yes, she can, or no, she can't. It doesn't, I don't really care in what scenario.
For her mental state, because it can put her through a lot, having to carry through that, but it's also still a baby. So that's where I'm also thinking about.
Well, that's your opinion. That's not the science. But that aside, I understand you're using your Christianity to justify your science, but I follow the actual scientists, not Christianity. And I am religious. I just put science first. But so I also want to recognize here that you can't answer yes or no to the simple question one more time. If, and just yes or no, the woman is a victim of incest. Yes or no, she should have an abortion.
If she wants, yes.
Okay, see, easy. So now, third question, if her life is at risk, abortion, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, that was a lot of time spent on 3 easy questions that anybody, including a child, could have answered. So now, moving on, we look at the weekly cutoff. Right now, on average, it's 18 to 24 weeks, because that is when a pregnancy becomes viable. Around 22 weeks, it becomes viable. 24 realistically, but anyhow. You tell me, what is your stance on that weekly cutoff? Do you think it should be 6 weeks, 10 weeks, or is it fine?
No, I mean, like I said, I have absolutely no medical training or anything like that, so I would go with what the doctors say. I mean, I would leave it to the doctors. It's not my place to say.
Okay, so now you're saying leave it to the doctors, but you're voting for a man who put politicians into doctors' offices. Okay, so you're saying leave it to the doctors, but you're voting for the candidate who doesn't believe it should be left to the doctors. See the issue? Because if it was left to the doctors, Amber Thurman would have had access to that emergency abortion on the spot. But because of Donald Trump and politicians, she didn't, and now she's no longer with us. So see the hypocrisy in that statement.
It's not all hypocrisy, but that was a terrible tragedy that should not have happened.
But what I just said points out your hypocrisy. Do you see the hypocrisy?
No.
Okay, so let me point it out again. You're saying that it should be her choice or the doctor's choice for that weekly cutoff, and that is a pro-choice stance to let the doctor decide if they want to perform the abortion. But yet you're voting for Donald Trump, who took away that doctor's decision and put politicians into the decision-making process, leading women like Kate Cox or Amber Thurman being unable to have an abortion because the doctors could no longer decide. Politicians were now deciding for them. So that's hypocrisy at its finest.
Well, doctors should definitely have a say, I think.
But they don't now, right? The government decides for them. The government tells them if they can perform the abortion or not. Doctors should be able to choose. You're voting for the candidate who says they shouldn't be able to choose. The politicians will decide for them. So now think of it this way. Instead of the doctor and the woman in the doctor's office, you have Mike Johnson in there as well, telling both of them as he moderates the discussion if she should be allowed to have an abortion. And believe it or not, he says no. So let me better understand this. Why, if you hold the belief that the doctor should decide, would you vote for the man who stripped away that doctor's choice?
Well, I'm pretty sure they're still going off of a lot of doctorate knowledge on about what weeks should be.
Yeah, it's not doctor's knowledge to say to a woman that she can't have an abortion at 0 weeks. Okay?
I don't know anywhere in the U.S. where 0 weeks is illegal.
You have outright abortion bans across the country, and also 6-week abortion bans, which are quite literally just outright abortion bans because women don't know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. So you're telling a woman who doesn't know she's pregnant yet.
There are no 0-week abortion bans in the U.S. at all.
Texas. You can't have an abortion in Texas. Because again, look at Kate Cox. She had a non-viable pregnancy. It was never going to be a baby. She couldn't get an abortion. They have no exceptions. She couldn't get an abortion in Texas. She had to leave the state to get an abortion.
Well, I'm not going to speak on that one because I do not know about that one.
Okay, but then you just made the claim that there's no states that have outright abortion bans, and there are. So that, I think, is also part of an issue here. It's a lack of education.
0 weeks?
Yeah. Well, I just said, again, Kate Cox in Texas, there was no exceptions. There's no exceptions for an abortion. But then again, you're voting for Donald Trump, who you don't even seem to agree with on this because you believe in exceptions. And you also said you believe it should be a doctor's choice whether or not to perform the abortion. But Donald Trump believes that doctors should be able to, that the government should be able to prosecute doctors who violate the government's stance and perform an abortion at the doctor's discretion.
Well, I'm pretty sure Trump's also said that there are exceptions.
Okay, Donald Trump is the guy who overturned Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, that was good.
But now you're backtracking. So it was good that Kate Cox couldn't have an abortion for her non-viable pregnancy. Was it good that Amber Thurman is dead?
Obviously not.
Okay, but you just said it was good that Roe v. Wade was overturned. She lost her life because Roe v. Wade was overturned. You understand that?
So for one,
and she's
Roe
not the
v.
only
Wade
one.
was actually illegal. They had no legal right to do that. Per the Constitution, per all the
You know
laws.
what scares me about this is that you using your Christianity to justify making such a false claim, such as Roe v. Wade was illegal, when we recognize the Supreme Court decided that. Stop it. No, this has to do with your Christianity. You brought it up. I didn't bring up your Christianity. You did. So don't act like this has nothing to do with it. This worries me because I got a feeling that you're going to come for marriage equality next, which we already know your party has been eyeing it and wants to put it on the chopping block. And I got a strong feeling that your party's going to do what you just said and say, well, it was illegal to give LGBTQ plus couples the right to marry. You can't just claim something's illegal. Women fought decades for the right to choose, for their body to be their choice. That was the law of the land for 50 years. And now you're just going to say it was illegal and that's why it was overturned? That's not even what Donald Trump says.
It was illegal to make it a federal mandate, a federal where the states can't.
That's not true.
Do for themselves.
The Supreme Court's sole purpose was to determine the law of the land. They interpret the Constitution. They decide precedents and they foresee over these cases. You're saying they were wrong. Okay. That's your stance, and that's out of touch with most Americans, and we recognize that, which is why you're losing. the almost 2,000 people watching, the hundreds and hundreds of women watching, you tell them, do you think that they should have a right to choose, or do you think that the right to choose belongs to the government?
Well, see, like I said, there are exceptions. I don't think they should be able to have it at the very
Don't
last
talk to
day.
me. Talk to the women in the channel. You tell them. Yeah. Is it their body, their choice, or is it the government's choice?
I think it's more their body, their choice, but up to a certain limit.
You're still talking to me. You humanize them. These are humans in the channel. You're saying, I think it's their body, their choice. No, talk to them. You tell them. Do you think it's their body, their choice, they get to decide? Or is it somebody else's?
Up to a certain point.
Tell them that. Go ahead.
That I just did.
Say, women in this channel, humanize them. Why aren't you even trying to humanize the people in this channel? You understand that these are humans, right? You won't even humanize them by talking to them. Go, if you feel ashamed to talk to them because you can't get yourself to tell them, but you seem to be hesitating to tell them you want to take their rights as women, and you should be, but I'm going to force you to do it. Own up to it. Go ahead. Talk to the women in this channel. Go ahead.
It's fine. It's your body, your choice. It's their body. It's fine up to a certain limit until it's murder of an unborn child.
Cool. Here's what I want to do here. I want to be clear. I am a white man. Are you a white man?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Are you a man?
I'm a Hispanic man.
Okay. You're a man. So we're two men having a conversation about why I think women should have the right to choose. And you're saying why women shouldn't. But we've bounced around this. You did. And you're also voting for a sexual abuser who violated women both physically and within their rights to choose. So let's get a woman up here. Would you be comfortable doing that? Let's get a woman up here.
That's
great.
I like hearing both sides.
Well, I think that having two men discuss this, it's just not it. All right, ladies, let's get some women up here to conversate. Becca, oh my gosh, I love Becca so much. Becca is an absolute hero. Becca, please, let me get you up. Let me get up one more if I can, so that we can keep this even. Hi, Becca, how you doing?
Johnny, I missed you.
Wait, what just happened? Oh, wait, there we go. Becca's back. Becca, how you doing?
I'm doing real good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Let me see. Okay. Actually, you know what? Becca, I think we're good. Becca's pretty fierce. Becca, you got this. I'm gonna mute myself. Y'all go.
All right. Am I talking to the second responder best clutcher here now?
Yeah, I'm gonna mute myself. I really want to make this. I want this conversation about women's rights to at least have a woman in it. So I'm gonna just mute myself. Y'all at it. I'll jump in if you need me, but y'all.
Oh, you know how I am. All right. First of all, what's your name? What am I calling you? Michael? Sure. All right, Michael, you're talking to a mother of 6, 43-year-old woman who is a mother, a grandmother, and a woman who has also had an AV. I had my abortion because I was going to lose my life. I was in an abusive relationship, and I wouldn't have lasted another year if I hadn't had my abortion. So I did the best thing for me. I went and had one, and I will never regret it. And let me explain something to you. Any reason is valid because women have to make a decision. There are women who are getting abused. There are women who are going through DV. There are women who are running for their lives. There are women who are having to make a decision whether to put food on the table or to pay their rent. And they don't have it in them to take care of another child because they have to make that decision. There are men who run because they don't want to be fathers. There are men who leave these women. There are women who want to have babies and then can't because they didn't get the care they needed, the reproductive care they needed, and their uteruses may be damaged. Their fallopian tubes may be damaged. There are women who are running and fleeing their states. There are women who have to go to lengths to get these abortions. Do you want to go back to the days when women were having abortions on their kitchen tables and bleeding out? Do you want to go back to when women were going literally into back alleys and having to have abortions by hangers because there was no other way? Do you want to go back to the days when women were having babies in the woods and throwing them in the garbage because they couldn't get an abortion when they needed to and they needed to run Do you want to go back to that? I want to know. Do you want to go back to women dying on their kitchen tables? Watch the movie. I want you to watch the movie if you have the time tonight. No, even if you don't, just watch it. You vest clutchers don't do much when you're sitting in your cars. Watch the movie If These Walls Could Talk. There is a scene with Demi Moore, and she has an abortion, and she dies on her kitchen table from bleeding out. This is not abnormal. This is what was happening. My grandmother was a very religious woman. She was going to be a nun before she got married. She was extremely religious. And you know what she was? She was an original bra burner. Because when she had her children and she had her daughters, she realized that their lives would be at stake. So don't tell me it's Christian values. My grandmother was in a nun school. She was studying. She is the most Christian, most beautiful woman that that anyone could ever met. She used to go to church every single Sunday. But she went and she burned her bra, and she went to DC, and she stood there and she yelled and she screamed, and she had other women's backs, because she knew that someday would come to pass when women would be dying from not being able to have the choice. My mother had more rights than my daughters do, that my granddaughter does. My mother, who is 63 years old, had more rights in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s than my daughters do today. I can't have kids anymore. I'm 43. But my daughters, they can. My granddaughter, one day, she may. And I don't want them to live in a world where their rights are being ruled on by men. I'm in Minnesota, thank God, but I'm locked here. I can't go anywhere. I can't leave Minnesota, because if I do, I'm doing a disservice to my children. So I stay here. I stay here in Minnesota, the state that I do love, but I will never be able to work anywhere else. I will never be able to go be a medic in Florida or Texas or North Dakota, South Dakota. I will never be able to go to these states, because if I do, I'm doing a disservice to my kids. I'm doing a disservice. And it's not just them. It's my nieces. It's the women in this chat. It's the women around America that I'm fighting for. We can't do this alone. We need the men to back us up, but it's men like you. It's men like you. It's men like Donald Trump. It's men like Brett Kavanaugh. It's men like Clarence Thomas. It's women even like Amy Coney Barrett, who voted against us to give us this fundamental right. Do you understand that women are losing their lives? Do you understand that, Michael? Do you understand that women are dying? I want you to tell me, do you understand that women are dying? Do you? Answer me. Answer me.
Do I understand that?
Yes. Do you understand that women are dying?
Obviously, that your personal experience is obviously horrible for you, and that you
I'm
have
not
to deal with
talking
that.
about just my personal experience. Do you know who
You
Kate
didn't tell
Cox
me a
is?
single thing that I didn't already know.
Do you know who Kate Cox is?
I've heard of. I haven't done any research, but yes, I've heard.
She wanted a baby. She planned her baby. She had her baby's nursery ready. She found out that her pregnancy wasn't viable. So her and her husband had to pack up, and she can never go back to Texas because they want her they want to take her medical records. Greg Abbott has petitioned the court for her medical records to make sure that it was okay with him for her to have her medical procedure. She's lucky. Her and her husband are lucky. They had the money. They were able to leave. Not everybody has that right. Not everybody has the money to just get up and walk away from their state. There are women. Amber Thurman had a child, a 6-year-old little boy. That little boy is going to grow up without his mother because the people in Georgia didn't feel that she deserved her rights. There are women that are bleeding out in their parking lots. I'm in Minnesota where we don't have a limit. You know why we don't have a limit? Because no doctor worth his weight in salt would let a woman have an abortion after 24 weeks when the baby is viable. No doctor. I work in medical care. I'm a paramedic, and I've worked in the hospitals before when I wasn't on the bus. And I will tell you, they will not let a woman have an abortion after 24 weeks because that baby is viable. But Tim Walz, God bless that man, Tim Walz, he left it up to the doctors and the women, because if you are over 24 weeks and it's a situation where the baby isn't viable or the mother's going to die, You have to go to court otherwise. Women are dying while they're waiting to go to court. Good. Let him run away. Let him run away. I want to tell the rest of the MAGA in here, though, if you have to wait for a court date, you won't make it. Court dates take time. Court dates take months to go, weeks to go, and you could be bleeding out or going septic while you're waiting for that, and you're not going to last.
Can we recognize, though?
Tim Walz, remember, he's on the ticket. He's running with Kamala. He's a wonderful man. I know him personally. I've spoken with him. He is giving us the rights back to let us make the choice with our doctors. And he has said nobody is allowed in your room, your medical decisions. Your medical decisions are your medical decisions to make with your doctor, and nobody is going to interfere with that. And I think we have to remember, when we vote for Kamala, we're also voting for Tim Walz, and he's done great things here in Minnesota for women's rights. So when you are voting for her, you're not just voting for her, you're voting for him. And listen to a Minnesotan who's lived here and knows him and has met him and has talked to him. He's good people. And he is going, ladies, he's going to get your rights back. If there's anyone who's going to vote, go to the task for you and vote for you. And I can't even talk. If anyone's going to fight for you, it's going to be Tim Walz. And Kamala is too. She's amazing. I love her, but he's already done it here.
What gets to me is that while you were speaking, the same way that I kept asking him to talk to the women in the channel, and he refused to humanize every woman in this channel by talking to them, he could only talk to me, a white man, was telling on its own. The fact he refused to hold himself accountable for his own hypocrisies and admit that women should have the right to choose, that he was using his own intolerance to justify stripping away the rights of women. And then when I bring a woman up here to talk to him, he runs away mid-conversation because, again, he just can't humanize women, is so telling. And it's not just him, it's so many MAGA Republicans. I don't understand if it was their parents doing something wrong with them growing up, or if they fell into a rabbit hole. I don't understand what went wrong with people like him who justify voting for a civil fraudster, felon, sexual abuser who dehumanizes women. I just don't understand. And this, because
I think we'll ever be able to understand it.
I was getting really emotional while we were talking, in part because of your story, which I also know your story. So it was even less about the story, more so that I knew he was getting ready to run, and just knowing that he was dehumanizing you as you were being vulnerable and telling your story. I'm like, how inhumane must a person be? Like, how cruel must somebody like him be to have a woman tell her story so openly and candidly and then just run away? I don't understand. But
yeah, I know, and it's more emotional right now because I'm actually going to meet my granddaughter.
Are you?
Yeah, this Thursday. She was born on the 2nd, but they wanted time, because it was a traumatic delivery and whatnot. So they wanted some time alone, and we had to get up to date on. We have all our vaccinations, but some because my husband's older and I'm a little bit older, so we want to make sure, we get our boosters for everything before we go see baby. But it's even more because I'm going to see my granddaughter, and I realize that my mother, have more rights than she does. And what I said to him too is I hate when people use Christianity. Like I said, my grandmother, when she met my grandfather, she was in the nunnery. She met because it was snowing one night. My grandfather gave her a ride home. And even though she was Christian and even though she was very strong, she was one of the original bra burners. She went to D.C. She marched at the Capitol to give women their rights because she understood that someday there may come a time when her daughters needed to have this health care, and none of them did, but I did. I did because I was in a DV situation and I wouldn't have made it another year. Even if I left him and had a baby, he would have had control over where I lived, where I worked, when I worked. He would have controlled me for the next 18 years. Right. So I did the thing that I thought was best, and I hate when people say there should be exceptions. Any reason is valid. Marital rape happens. Marital SA happens. It's happening to women right now. And that's if a woman gets raped by her husband and decides that she can't do it, she can't bring someone else into that marriage, that house, then any reason is valid. Any reason is valid.
Well, this is what gets to me, right? Because I'm religious. I believe we're all God's children, but apparently I see my God differently than some of these MAGA Republicans, because I was taught at a very young age, first off, you respect women. I don't know where my religion teaches me that I could dehumanize women and mock women and belittle women like so many of them have been doing today. And I don't understand where they use their God and their religion to justify stripping away the rights and freedoms of Americans and undermining their neighbors. I thought these Republicans claim to love thy neighbor. Then why do they hate them so much? Why do they hate me so much? Why do they hate you so much? LGBTQ plus Americans, women, why do they hate us so much? Because I was taught that you support God, you see through God's vision by supporting your neighbors. You fight for your neighbors' rights and freedoms. A Black American's right to vote. You don't tell them that they can cast a ballot, but that it won't be equal to that of a white American. You support an LGBTQ plus American's right to marry and love and be true to themselves. You don't tell them that they can love, but not near you, not in this country, and not marry. You don't tell a transgender American that they can't serve on the front lines to fight for you and your family. That's not freedom. That's not within that vision. You don't look women in the eyes and tell them that they can't have the right to choose, that they're not equal to men. How is that in the vision of, these people use God as just such a hateful being. It's just,
and let's
awful.
keep in mind too that no longer have separation of church and state. Those justices right now that are in the Supreme Court are Christian nationalists.
Yeah.
Every bit Christian nationalists, because they have brought their religion to their decision making. They should not be allowed to make decisions. They should not, oh, look who's back. They should not be allowed to sit in the Supreme Court and lord over us and put their names on those dockets with their Christian religion behind it. And I will say, I don't mind religion. I think every religion is valid. I am Jewish, but I am married to a Christian man. I see nothing wrong with different religions, but when you do not have separation of church and state, it is going to affect us. It is affecting you. It's affecting me. It's affecting all these women that are in this chat right now who don't want to be a handmaid. And ladies, you don't have to be a handmaid. Listen, come to Minnesota. You need help? You come to Minnesota. You look me up. You stay at my house. I got an extra bedroom. I'll help you. I'll take you. But I'm not going to let anyone that needs to have care, I'm not going to let them go through this. Come to Minnesota, follow me, come find me if you need help. I live right by the metro. I'll get you to a clinic and I'll take care of you afterwards. It's all good. It's all good. We're not going back.
Thank you, Becca, for saying all this. I really think it's kind of humorous in a sense, because as you're saying that you're going to come up here and fight for women's rights and support them through this process, you know for a fact that a MAGA Republican is listening in right now and their brain wiring hears it as free abortions every Sunday, Baker's dozen. You want a coupon for a free abortion? You know that wiring is. Anyhow, Becca, thank you so much for coming up.
You get one.
You get an abortion, and you get an abortion. You get an abortion. I just know that this is how they're hearing it because of their brainwashing. But Becca, thank you again for coming up. I really appreciate you coming up. I wanted to have a woman in that conversation. It was not sitting right having two men discussing a woman's right to choose. It just never feels right. But thank you.
Let me tell you, you do it beautifully. You do it beautifully. So thank you. And can we get some W Johnnies in the chat before I go, please? Just W Johnny. He's here every day helping us. His Venmo, his Cash App, they're all in his bio. So help
Love
him
you,
out.
Becca. Thank you so much.
Getting the word out. Bye, Johnny.
Thank you, Becca. See you later.
See ya.
Lynn, hi. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
Oh, no, but I wanted to talk to that guy about the abortion issue.
Oh, he ran away. I wish you could.
It makes me...
I I appreciate you coming up. I do want to get up a Republican up next. Thank you, though. Yeah, I wish we could all talk to him a little bit more, but he seemed to run away real quick. He ran away real quick. Knock it off, guys. Y'all are going to make me start crying in the chat. Knock it off. Hello, guest. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
Hell yeah, man. What do you mean? I wouldn't vote for him. I want America to be saved.
Where's your accent from?
Oh, my accent? What do you mean?
Where's your accent from? Did I stutter?
I don't know what you mean, my accent. Like,
you have an accent. Where's it from? What state are you from?
Texas.
What time is it in Texas?
Right now in Texas, well, based on my watch, right now it's like 7:56.
It's 7:56 in Texas. Folks, so this guy right here who's about to run away, I want to point out, he's from the misinformation call center. Quiet time. He's from the misinformation call center. So there's a call center that is from out of the country that is meant to misinform voters. Oh, see, he ran away. Notice I didn't kick him. He just ran away because I just called him out. So he's one of those from the call center. They all have the same exact accent. They typically say they're from New Jersey. But after I'm the one who called them out from being from New Jersey, because it's the same script they use every time, they're now saying they're from Texas, which is why I asked him, what time are you? And he said 7:56. That's an East Standard Time. That's not Texas's time. Okay? So let's recognize misinformation is all over. And there is out-of-country election interference taking place as we speak. That was one of the misinformation propagandists. It is a literal, I mean, let me tell you, folks, when I say call center, I'm not like, I mean, it is a actual call center in a building with people on computers with headsets calling into these live streams for this purpose. It is an actual thing. Hi, guest. Are you voting for Donald Trump? Rosa?
No, I'm sorry.
You're okay. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, let's get up our next guest. Hi, guest. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
Unfortunately, I'm Australian. Sorry.
What time is it in Australia right now? Is it late there? I mean, they're on the other side of the... It's got to be pretty, like, it's got to be late, right? Hi, guest. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
Yes, I am.
How old are you?
I'm 18.
Fetus deletus. Poof. I could be wrong, but that voice did not sound like it even dropped yet, so pretty sure I'm right. Oh, fetus deletus is a beautiful spell, but it is banned in some states. Don't try fetus deletus in Alabama, everybody. Oh my gosh. All right, let's get up our next guest. I'm trying here, folks. We might need to do a live stream restart because it's a little tough to get a MAGA Republican up after Becca just slapped them down. Like, Becca obliterated them. Hi, Kristen. Are you voting for Donald Trump?
I'm a familiar. I am.
Wait, so you are or aren't voting for Trump?
No, I am not. I just have one question. If you can please.
Would you message me? Okay.
I can.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Let's get up our next guest. Bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum, ba-da-da-dum, dum. Oh, I hear sirens in the background. Ba-da-da-dum, bum, 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 ba-doo, boo, 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 boo-doo, boo, boo, boo-doo, boo-doo, boo, boo, boo. Edwin, did you just want to hear me do a full performance, or do you want to say hi? Like, what is the...
I was waiting for you to acknowledge me.
Do you want to thank me for the singing, or... I mean, I was performing. I did a whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you for
How old are you?
elevator music.
How old are you?
26. I turned 26, I think it was 11 days ago.
Did you vote in 2020? Did you vote in 2020?
No, sir, but I was going to vote. No.
So you're a first-time voter?
I didn't, yeah, I'm a first-time voter.
So are you a first-time voter? Gotcha. And so you picked the civil fraudster, felon, rapist because?
I don't think he's a rapist.
I mean,
I don't think he's a fraud either.
I mean, he is. I don't really care what you think, right? I care what the criminal justice system says. And they say that Donald Trump, in fact, is a civil fraudster, felon, sexual abuser. I mean, why are you saying that the criminal justice system's wrong? Why are you saying that the unanimous jury that found him guilty of his crimes, the jury that was appointed by his lawyer, is wrong? Can we get some lock him up in the chat, by the way? Anyway, can you explain to me how you know better than the bipartisan jury that was appointed by his lawyers, how you know better than his lawyers, how you know better than the judge, than the criminal justice system?
Well, I'll start off by saying this, right? We have a faulty criminal justice system, right? To the point where...
Yes, we do. Okay, first off, your internet is god awful.
Who's right?
I mean, you're cutting out every other word.
Are you saying?
I wish I knew what I was saying. I can't understand what
right?
you're saying to respond.
Are you
Do you
saying
want to repeat what
right?
you just said? Your internet was cutting out.
Like,
I couldn't hear a thing you said.
You said that. How do I know better than the criminal justice system? I said, to start off, we have a faulty criminal justice system.
Okay.
They're not always right. Are they?
Yep.
Do you think
but
they're
what
always
you're
right?
doing is conflating on the local level where they wrongfully prosecute, for example, Black Americans at a higher rate than white Americans, or you look at, for example, the Central Park Five, who is now suing Donald Trump for defamation. For those of you who didn't know this, they just filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump for defamation surrounding his false claims regarding their exoneration. The Central Park Five, who was charged and imprisoned for something they didn't do, but then exonerated. I'm not done. I'm not done. You're conflating them with Donald Trump, somebody who has had in every aspect of his character, background, medical records, having everything be examined. Do you truly think that as a former president, as somebody as prominent as Donald Trump, that he wouldn't be investigated and caught free and fairly regarding his crimes? If you commit a crime, they're going to catch you, right? Hunter Biden committed a crime, you got caught. Because when you step into public office, the most important office in this country, you ought to bet your background's going to get investigated. And Donald Trump should be very aware of this. Look no further than how he was demanding from Barack Obama offer him his birth certificate to prove he was born in America. Donald Trump is an American citizen, born in America, but Donald Trump said, we're going to investigate that. And then Donald Trump, lo and behold, got some karma and got investigated himself. That's how we caught the civil fraud. That's how we caught the sexual abuse. That is how we caught the falsifying business records. So let's not act like this was political persecution. Are you suggesting this was political persecution?
Again, to my question, right? We do both agree that they get it wrong sometimes, right?
Not on the same term, no, because you think that they got it wrong for Donald Trump.
So what about Black Americans? You even mentioned it, right? They get it wrong sometimes.
Notice what you're doing. You're conflating the two. You and I disagree that they got it wrong for Donald Trump.
Do you think it's not
because it
corrupt at
doesn't
all?
make sense?
That's all I'm trying to get at. Do you think they're
so
not
my
corrupt
question
at all?
to you was, do you think that
or
Donald
do you
Trump
pick and choose whenever you think they're corrupt? That's what I'm saying, right? I let you go on. I let you go on and on. You've gone on for like about a minute. I still haven't got a chance to answer, right? So I understand that you think that I'm conflating the two, right? I do think that Black Americans and minorities do get prosecuted way more.
And you put
our justice system is way.
All right,
way
so let's
too much
explain
conflated.
what you just did. First off, who, mind you, alive for with them.